Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, December 29th, 2014. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to ask everyone to join me in a moment of silence as we reflect on our duties to the town, and we can all do that as department heads and whatnot, and also pray for the safety of our soldiers both in the United States and overseas, and be happy that one of our soldiers came back, Mr. Quimby's friend from Cuba. So we have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I have to mention, in accordance with Mass General laws, that we are recording this meeting for the Board of Selectmen and also for the East Long Meadow Cable Access, and I have to ask if anyone else is recording this.
I will be.
You will be? Okay.
Yes.
All right. The majority of our meeting tonight is we're going to be meeting with our various department heads who have submitted their budgets to us, and we're going to basically get just an overview of the budgets from them, and then from there we will review them and give the final okay, hopefully on January 6th, and have them get them to appropriations on, I believe, January 13th. So our first appointment tonight, 6 p.m., is Colin Drury from Recreation. How are you doing?
Good.
Good to see you. All right, you had, I know you obviously you've seen our budget, and just to let people know, there was basically two budgets. It's the regular budget, which, if anyone saw the appropriations meeting of, I think it was December 2nd, they basically asked to keep salaries the same because of every contract being negotiated this year, and limit spending increases to 2% on other non-salary items. So that was sort of like the guidelines that that the department heads got. And if you want to start with yours, I noticed, for a reason that you could not avoid, I believe, your increase. Well, actually, you have. Let me also preface by, any salary increases that were included in the budget were due to current contractual obligations, and nothing that hasn't already been approved. So, if you want to give us a brief overview of yours.
Sure. When it concerns salaries, wages, the only thing that has been allocated for was the step raises within the grades. Everything else, I believe the three of you have the pleasure of having fun with contracts over the next few, and I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time with that. And then also, my contract is also up at the end of this year as well, so the only thing that's actually there is just the additional 0.2 weeks. Because we went to a 52.2 to a 52.4. When it concerns the non-salary expenses, the 2%, I only put in there for 2% that I thought were needed, nothing that wasn't. So you'll see just on our advertising budget, our advertising did go up previous year, you can see. So I put in for the 2% there. Same for our printing costs. As well, and then our other purchases, which is actually the porta potties that are staged around town, and then our office supplies. With additional advertising and additional printing, we do have additional costs there as well. So I just went to the full 2% for those. The in-state travel mileage, I did the 2% there as well. That because with the increased amount of participants, I'm driving much more to accommodate the needs of our various programs. So those are there, and then if you'd like to move on to the supplemental, I can go through that as well. That's actually where most of the interesting things are with the recreation budget, with the addition of the full-time position that the Board of Selectmen, you guys graciously approved in October. It is something that I obviously would like to keep going forward. So the amount of an increase there is actually to put that position within level with other like communities and like positions within the area and the state. So that's that number there. The appointed salaries, I honestly did not know what to put there other than the going rate for a recreation director for like communities in the state within our region as well. You'll see the longevity goes down $600, only because we don't have any employees that are for longevity, except for myself going forward. And then interesting aspects is in speaking with Sarah and I, Sarah Menard and I went through my budget.
Yeah, we needed that clarification.
Yep, line by line.
He has a sister named Sarah.
I do.
And so.
Yep. So we went through my budget line by line just to understand, to kind of give her an orientation of recreation. And when we're looking at all the different expenses, it seemed that some of them don't really support our office, rather they support our programs very specifically. So in an effort to almost assist with the supplemental budget for positions in the office, we are putting in for a supplemental budget to reduce some of these items that are non-salary items. The other purchases, which is the porta potties, those specifically assist our programs, obviously, because on the weekends there's no access to buildings or bathrooms, so we try to make sure that we stage them around town. I'm sure the community as a whole use them as well. So we are reducing that, and those reductions will go to our revolving account.
Okay, and that's for the 4,500?
That's the 46,600 there, so you can see there. And then the other one is the other charges / expenses line, which you can see is actually a large chunk of $12,000. The recreation department uses our school system buildings for many of our programs. Buildings and facilities are the fields and gyms for all of our different programs, basketball and such. And we pay the schools $24,000 a year, $12,000 from our revolving fund and $12,000 from our town fund. Since it's a very specific charge that specifically goes towards our programming, Sarah and I both felt that that should be in our revolving fund as well and should be supported by user fees as opposed to by taxation. So that's that. What that does is it actually reduces our non-salary expenses 37%. So it's a large reduction there. Would you like me to continue? Going forward, you can see the employee information that was requested. When looking at our paid employees, I manage as the director throughout the year, seasonally and full-time employees, 83 employees. And then our unpaid volunteers, I hope doesn't shock you, but we need about 250 coaches and coordinators each year.
Okay.
So that would be the expected 343.2466 people that I have the pleasure of working with each year to make our programs function. The rest of the document you can see is simply just illustrated numbers that you can see that even though our public school system participants has kind of stayed fairly even, that the recreation participants is not really coincide with our school participants. We continue to rise year by year. And then the other budget in town, which seemed to be the closest to the recreation department, was the school athletics budget. So it was a good comparison to see that our budget has not kind of risen with the amount of participants that we're serving. It's putting a bit more and more strain on our department, just so we can continue to offer programs as well as we would like to, and to have the staff people in the office to continue to do that. And then, of course, I have dreams of having leisure programs as well as adult programs. I would like to do that in the future, but obviously right now we just need to be able to function with the programs that we currently serve and do them well. Then the last page you can see is just our participants by program and continued, since some have a lot, like our Pine Knoll program, over 2,000 kids.
That's great. It's amazing how it's going.
It's excellent. It's been fun to get over the 200 kids per week mark. It's been a blast, and this year we even saw another rise. Obviously, the new Pine Knoll pool has created some serious excitement, so my hope is next year that it does rise up again. And then down below, you can see that some of our other seasonal programs, between 2 200 to 300 kids per program. But what it really illustrates is that even though some of our program participation is going down, others are going up. So we're not losing the kids. They're just trying new
different
things.
sports, yeah.
And they're
Like
trying.
lacrosse.
Yeah, like lacrosse, you can see is
it's skyrocketing.
quite popular.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of illustrating the fact that this year the recreation department is looking for the support to keep the current staff.
Mhm.
I can tell you that it has allowed me to go out and look at getting donations to the recreation department. We were able to get over 60 boxes of equipment from Dick's Sporting Goods this year because I had the time to actually reach out.
Mhm.
And then they also donated $600 to Dick's Sporting Goods for our basketball program.
Okay.
So it has allowed me to get more money into our programs, which does keep our costs lower. So that way our registration fees will kind of stay as on target as possible.
Mhm.
One of the other things is the recreation department in the past has not really received the percentages kind of coinciding with the participants that we're receiving. So our expended budget, you can tell we kind of been hovering around the 160,000 mark for many years. This chart here,
Okay.
participants' expended budgets. You can see that the recreation department for the past few fiscal years has had about a 0.31% rise in budget, but yet our participants has grown about 36%. So it's kind of when looking at it, it's getting harder and harder to serve the participants. And I'm hoping that we can receive your support this year to keep our department the way that it is now functioning. So that's the budget in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks. And originally, I believe, that full-time position, when we first discussed it a while ago, was to do exactly what you're talking about, to allow you to go out and get sponsorships, get donors for different programs. Maybe, I know we discussed signage around the baseball field as far as advertising and things like that. So
Yep.
hopefully, if we do get there where we can keep that position, we can, you can continue to do that. And
Yeah, that'd be
bring
wonderful.
in money from other, it's always great to get money from other sources,
Yeah.
because you know how limited our regular money is. So.
Yes, absolutely. It's also allowed me to go home a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah, there you go.
Family first,
Yeah. All right. Any questions from the board?
I do, but it'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'll get with you.
Sure.
That lacrosse is, why do so many kids participate in that? Is that cheapest sport?
No,
Oh,
it's
no.
it's
No.
just about it's actually a fairly gear-intensive sport. We provide helmets for that sport as well as most of the equipment, as opposed to stick and gloves and personal, sized equipment. The reason is when I was a kid, lacrosse really wasn't around.
Yeah, it was
It kind of came in around the early to mid 2000s. And then East Long Meadow had a couple of parents a few years ago, Joe Ford and Dan Fazio, that said, hey, why don't we have this? And they came in and kind of spearheaded to create the program. So that's why you'll see some spring sports drop and lacrosse go up.
And we never, East Long Meadow wasn't big into it, but Long Meadow was always
Yep.
a state powerhouse, and nobody else played lacrosse in Western Mass, really.
Mhm.
But lacrosse, Long Meadow was great at it, and then eventually it caught on. And I think one of the reasons, because my kids played a little bit, is because you can take the stick and like whack the other kids in the
Oh, yeah.
legs. And,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's like hockey without the padding. It's
Pretty
basically
much.
what
Yeah,
it
but they have to
is.
have the ball before you can contact them. John
In
was
theory.
playing and he
They
had a
d-
little
If-
problem.
if the ref is looking
Contact-
over at you.
They don't have
He
to
didn't
provide their own
understand.
equipment?
We
hockey?
try to, what we do is, in the effort to keep our costs low, what we do is we provide equipment that isn't personal, meaning, shin guards that fit your shins, your elbows, your gloves, your size stick. That would, I don't have the storage space now
Yeah.
to have all the sticks and stuff, but what we do is we have about 200 helmets.
Yeah.
And for the girls' side, we have 200 pairs of goggles, because they don't use helmets on the girls' side. So we try to provide the very, the expensive item, like for football, like football helmet, shoulder pads,
Mhm.
jerseys, uniform, whereas the kids have to, get their own cleats and things along those lines.
Excuse me, through the chair, just out of curiosity, why would they not have helmets for females?
They don't hit.
Oh, really?
They're coming.
Okay, I was gonna
All right.
say,
Yeah, they're
Be-
in Florida
because-
now.
But that's for Christmas shopping.
because
Yeah.
I've seen male and female soccer, and I thought that the girls was they are more they have more contact than some of the males. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's,
With the girls, contact is immediate stop of play, so it typically doesn't happen much.
so you're
Just
talking about the rulings.
yes, the ruling. So the
Okay.
the stick
Alright.
checking and the full-on hitting doesn't happen much. Obviously, if our local organizations went to helmets, we would trade in those goggles for helmets. So
Okay.
we just try to stick with the league rules and
Mhm.
what they're asking
Understood.
us to do.
Just want all of them to be safe.
Oh, you betcha.
I just watched girls play hockey over through, on a boys team over to Olympia this weekend.
Hmm.
Oh, my God.
Oh, they can play.
The girls were better than the boys.
Oh, yeah.
Man, they leveled.
And they wear
some of
helmets.
them.
They would have to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
No, I'm all set.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Get
sure.
back to you on,
Thanks, Cal.
All right.
by the 6th?
Yeah, thank you. If there's any other information you need, just let me know, and be glad to get it to you. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
And next is our Council on Aging Director, Carolyn Brennan.
Oh.
How are you?
Nice guy.
How are you?
It's workouts.
How are you?
I'm good.
How are you?
Fine. All right. Since you just saw Colin, you know the routine, we will, we have to.
Yep. I just wanted to give you this. This is just, one of the things that I wanted to go over, E.G. and Nick, is just to show you that what we present to the town for the COA budget is almost $280,000 that the town supports. But as you can see in here, we bring in additional funds. So I just wanted to go over that because I think it's important that you guys know the effort we make to relieve the taxpayers as much as possible. But our nutrition program is about $90,000, which is 21% of our budget, and we bring all that in through sponsorship, donations, and grants. As well as the transportation is about $45,000. Again, same type of sources. And then we have some miscellaneous expenses for additional training for our staff, equipment for our fitness room, and other things that we use for exercise programs, and that's another $15,000, which is 3% of our budget. So our total budget really is about $480,000. But we really do our best. And a lot of our staff is supplemented by the revolving fund and additional funds that we bring in. So I just wanted to point that out. Our budgets, we did stay within the 2%. We do have a supplement request, and that is for a regrade for our nurse. Our nursing position really is one of our key components of the senior center. And she, Lisa gets paid $20 an hour, and if you go look at any type of nursing position, it's almost deplorable. And her responsibilities have increased immensely. She's one of the positions that is funded through income that we bring in through our fitness room, our programs, and other grants. And she's doing so much more than the nurse was doing 15 years ago, which was basically a blood pressure clinic and checking on the wellness of the seniors. And Lisa's doing all of that, plus triage, plus responding to emergencies, plus all of the exercise programs that she's now certified in through the arthritis program. And so I did include, a survey that we did of about 40 of our participants. And, one of the key things that was responded in there was that they're healthier, they're getting better results than their physical therapy, they're getting better results than their chiropractor, and the biggest thing is that they feel they're able to stay home longer. And that really is everything that we do at the senior center, that's the reason. And so it's just a key component, and I think that position really needs to be paid for all the responsibilities she had, which is really critical. She has to do a lot of, she has to use her background in it. So we are asking for an increase in that I included. So it would go from approximately $20 an hour to $27 per hour.
You don't want to know how much we pay our health nurse then?
25, right? I think it is. Oh, I don't know. I looked, I thought it was 25, so I compared it to the school nurse
Okay.
as well as
Yeah.
some area surrounding communities. This is still less than our area communities because I knew what the financial situation is. I didn't want to, I wanted to be reasonable in the request, but I certainly
Yeah.
think $27 an hour is
Yeah.
reasonable for her position. So that's included in that. I also really want to thank Sarah. I don't know if it was Sarah's idea to ask about the volunteers, but that's like the COA's, that's our really proud point, is that we rely on so many volunteers. And if you look at, we could not do any of these programs without our volunteers.
Okay.
And when we every year we have to submit a report to the state, and when we have to kind of look at what they would get paid in fair market value.
Okay.
And it's almost $200,000 that we save the community just by having all the volunteers that we have. So thank you, Sarah, if that was your idea. So we're really happy to have included that in our budget and hope that that's always going to be on there.
It's always nice to get the volunteers too.
It is. It is, and that's how we get them into the senior center. You know, their first step is after they retire, we steal all of their skills and
Yeah.
assets that they
It's a
bring
nice pool
and
to-
they
It is.
participate.
To grab from.
All right. Are there any questions from the board?
How many unpaid volunteers you got?
Well, it's,
306?
if you look at, I think it's almost 250. And that varies from, some people just do 1 hour every other week to, we have, you know, I'm thinking of Millie, our kitchen volunteer.
Mhm.
Millie does 20 hours faithfully every single week forever.
Yeah.
So it really varies. I have another, Lorraine, who, if I had to pay Lorraine, who does all of our data entry, I can't even imagine what it would cost, but she does well over 30 hours a week. But for those, you know, the testimonies that they will share with you is their lifeline. You know, Lorraine
Mhm.
was a perfect example of, she was home too much and her family said, you've got to get out to work. You've got to get back into the community.
Do
And
something, yeah.
she'll say it saved her life being able to volunteer, so.
Any further questions?
Yeah, I'm all
I just
set.
have a silly question. The senior work-off, what is that?
Actually, we've been working on that with Sarah.
Okay.
Again, thankful that Sarah has brought that up. So she might be the best person to kind of give a scenario. But we've been using the senior workout program for probably over 10 or 15 years. But Sarah's kind of just bringing it all together, cleaning up the process a little bit, and doing
Yeah.
some better tracking. But
Okay.
maybe that might be
And it's
better.
never, I don't think it's ever been isolated. to
No, it
see that.
hasn't. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
The Senior Work-Off Program is a wonderful program that we have in our town, and that seniors who own a piece of property here,
Mhm.
who have owned it for over a year and are a resident,
Mhm.
they are able to donate their hours, and able to earn a percentage off their, an exact dollar amount off of their taxes. So for every hour that they
Okay.
work, they're able to earn
Okay.
Money off there, up to a cap.
Okay.
And so they come in, they fill out an application, they go to the treasurer clerk's office where they can get their application, they fill it out. Within our within the town, we have different positions open. We are trying to expand that program and offer more positions. But we try to match skills with the positions that are open,
Mhm.
and then we contact the individuals, and then they can work the hours,
Okay.
and then they get an abatement essentially off their taxes.
So there's a chance that they'll just go past the Council of Aging, not saying that you shouldn't get them first, but.
No, there's
it could be
opportunities in every
everywhere.
department.
Yep. we have
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Throughout, so we strongly encourage people to come and ask, fill out, and to, you know, if you have a great idea for a thing that you think would help the community, we might be able to make a position for it and have people do that, and it benefits everyone.
Okay.
Very good.
Anything else?
Anyone else?
No, I'm all set.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Don't hurt Billy.
Okay, through the chair, just for a quick moment, I'd like to amend the agenda to include negotiations.
Okay. All righty, yeah, I think we've got it down for union negotiations then we'll do that last. That'll be
But we
in
still
executive.
we need to vote on it to amend it.
Is there a motion to?
What are you amending?
We're adding, there's a topic on union negotiations that we have to take up, so I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add an executive session for matter regarding union negotiations.
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
All right, our next person, and we're right on time, is Tom Florence. Hi, Tom. how are you tonight? We are obviously letting you present in your case, your budgets.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is we'll review them and get back to you by the 6th with if there's anything that we want to discuss.
Okay,
And if not, then we'll just go from there.
that sounds good.
Tom, since you wear 3 hats, I think you have the longest one.
Yeah.
You're under the most pressure to get it done.
I have two, probably I'd say main budgets
Mhm.
would be the clerk's office, and then the license and registration, which is elections, town meetings,
Okay.
census, you
Yeah.
know, street list printing those.
Okay.
And then there's 3 other ones. It's the long-term debt, short-term debt, which this year
I did
we've
see
broken out, water sewer for the enterprise fund, and then all other debt. And then Hampton County Retirement and the PC, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. It's a small assessment that we have to make.
Okay.
So,
So if you want to go through your first.
yes. Okay, the first one is the clerk's office.
Mhm.
Okay. Again, based on the guidelines this year, there's only step increases
Mhm.
that we had budgeted for.
Right.
So it's almost right at the 1% flat. So again, that's not knowing what's gonna happen with
Right,
the salary
right.
negotiations. Going down to expenses. First thing I want to point out is back in 2013, the expenses were 53,000.
Mhm.
When I started 12 years ago, the expenses were 50,000. So in 12 years, we've kept them almost flat, or they've gone down. And the reason they've gone down is, tight controls plus
Mhm.
some technology advances. We're doing more e-billing to tighter controls with office supplies and postage. So if you go down there, what we have, like technology improvements, and as I said, the postage, office supplies, we've really gone down. Again, just better controls and technological improvements. The travel part of it is because of the obligations I have this year, being president of the state association. I have to, travel a little bit more.
Mhm.
And so I have the white, what's called the white car, the pool car,
Mhm.
which I'm in charge of maintaining. So you
Mhm.
see there's a $600 charge in there for maintenance,
I do.
which is oil changes, tires, things like that.
Mhm.
And then you just add it all up, come down, comes down to, 2% or $730 increase from last year. So we try to keep it as flat as possible.
Okay, and obviously you kept that within the guidelines.
Yep.
And I figured out my problem, Nick, it's just on the second page, that top line jumped up.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't find the category I went with, and then when I saw the previous budget, I said,
Yeah, the more explanation you type in,
The-
it jumps up.
All right.
Yeah. So, with that said, it's pretty much a flat budget until you get to
Mhm.
the supplemental part of it. And,
Okay.
working with the, I'm sorry.
Actually, before we get to the supplemental,
Sure.
are any questions regarding the submitted budget?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Sure.
With regards, and it's actually to Sarah, with regards to the percentage column, when it says DIVs over the, I don't know if it's a 01 or an 01, does that mean that it wasn't calculated out, or
Right.
there was no information placed in there?
That's because of a 0 being in your formula. So if you look, that just means that there was nothing in there. So for instance, if you look at the third line down, elected salary, that
Mhm.
line does not apply for
Exactly.
this
So-
one. There's a 0.
Okay, if I were looking at, though, for example, 5713, there are values there. Should there be a percentage there?
It is your increase, decrease from your FY15 budget. So if you look for that line, FY15 had a budget of 0.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's essentially 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Well, if you, well, you can't technically have 100% of 0, but it's a 100% increase because there was nothing before.
okay, all right, another time. All right, thank you.
There were any questions?
No, I'm all set.
All right. All right, now if you want to move on to the supplemental.
Okay, the supplemental budget, there's really only 2 things that, and again, working with Sarah, that we needed to include. And the first is, I just needed to include it someplace, is the, and I don't know where it stands right now, but I understand the promotion I put in for Peter Benjamin that was denied this past year. I left it in, and, I didn't want not to put anything in there, so whatever the promotional increase is, I kept it in there retro back from July 1st.
Okay.
Okay? And then the other increase is, again, my appointment is up this June 30th, and I don't know, I just estimated a 2.5% increase. Maybe it's gonna be less than that, I don't know, but I put something in there for myself under appointed salaries.
Okay.
So those are the only two things that, that the clerk's office has in the supplemental budget.
And we can't comment on that other item because,
Right.
yeah. Okay.
All right.
And again, I just wanted to make sure I put it in there just.
Yeah,
because-
you want it in there for the, because that's the whole idea of the supplemental budget, is to
Right.
put in the things that, I hate
The
to use the word wish
possibilities.
list, but
Yeah, I
the
know.
things that you, in a perfect world, would want.
Exactly,
So,
you got it.
okay.
Okay,
The next one is, what you want, licensing and and registration?
you got it. The next one is, as you can see, that has also gone down. We're gonna have less elections. Next, this was an even year, so you get primaries, you get the state election. Next year coming up, we're cutting down from, I think, from 4 to 3. We have the presidential primary. In next fiscal year, we have the preliminary, if we have a preliminary election, that's always the wild card, and then the local election.
Okay.
So we have one less election than we did last year, which is why you'll see the decreases.
So we know the reason, but we'd love to see a 22% decrease.
I know.
So then it'll jump after though.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, depending on the years.
So if you look at the history, you look at, it goes from, 52 down to 21 up to 36. We just, that 52 was an aberration. That's when we had to have all the
We had,
Yeah.
special.
we had 7 elections that year. I believe.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
including the recount, so.
Mhm.
So, again, if you look at that, the biggest part is just in the seasonal salaries, and it's the less you have to pay, the election workers, because there's less elections. And the other stuff is pretty much consistent. It's in the street list, the census, and then all the printing of the ballots. That's the other part that goes in there, and that's virtually flat.
Mhm.
So,
Okay. Very good. Any questions?
No?
Selectman Fry?
Oh, nothing that I can talk to you about
Okay.
later.
all right, thanks.
And now you have,
Oh, we're still on
a supplemental request for that also. I don't know
Okay,
if
sorry.
that's something that you want to, it looks like it's,
Let me see.
there's not really much
For the
requested.
debt you're talking about?
Yeah, for the licensing and registration.
License
Yeah,
registration?
it doesn't look like there's much requested, so it's basically the same
Yeah,
percentages
it's the
as
same and just carried down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can,
Yeah.
if that's the case, then we can move on to,
Good catch. The long-term and short-term
Yep.
debt. Okay. This, what we did this year, and it's new and it's, working with Sarah, we had the long-term and short-term debt classes are coming in tomorrow. Progressive lenses. And
Yeah, I'm 31st, I gotta get it in before the flex finishes, so I'll be getting new ones too.
See, timing is.
I
everything.
understand, okay.
Yeah. But
Sorry.
what we did is we broke out water, sewer, long-term debt to all other, which is school, building, capital. So I have I don't know if you might just have the one that's combined.
it's Department 710 and 751.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Is the total 4 point,
142.
exactly.
Yep.
Okay, that's total. Since then, we broke it out, water, sewer, and then all the other debt, 4.2.
Okay.
So,
We
and,
broke out water sewer.
Okay,
This year we're doing the enterprise
Right,
funds for
right.
FY16, so the
Mhm.
debt goes with the enterprise
Mhm.
fund, so that's why you'll see the reduction,
Okay.
okay?
exactly.
Mhm.
So, and then the thing on the supplemental that we have to look out for is a small decrease. We do our bond refinancing.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna track that through by the end of the month or the 1st of February.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be a reduction in interest.
Oh.
And we're still working on what that number's gonna be.
Okay, okay, good. Yes.
Just take a side note on behalf of the clerk. As far as that bond refinancing goes, I think the intent is for all of that paperwork to be presented to the board for the meeting of January 20th.
Okay.
So if that's a date that has to be issued, it would be appreciated if that could be known. So as you recall, you've been through 2 of them now within the last 6 months. The clerk is really sort of hamstrung when the date is set in motion.
Right.
That needs to be the date.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay,
So,
all right, very good. All right.
thanks.
So now I don't know, do we have, there's,
These are Hampton County retirement.
okay, yeah, it's
Okay.
PVC.
There's a
That's
PVPC assessment, and
basically
that's
got-
just a small
Yeah,
assessment that the town has to pay every
Mhm.
year. And it's only
it's like 2,500 bucks.
$2,500.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
23 something this year. We just estimated a 2% increase for
Mhm.
next year. So,
Okay.
Now, did they ask for an increase?
no, it's, they bill
just
all the
do-
communities,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost, you gotta pay what they tell you.
Okay, so we don't know what they're gonna ask us
No,
to pay yet?
nope, not yet.
Over the past 3 years, they've charged us the exact same amount.
Right.
Okay, so then the 2% overage could, okay.
It could actually be
Could
less.
actually come back, okay.
We just put it in.
But you're just planning, got
Right.
it. Good idea.
Alrighty.
Then the last one is the Hampton County retirement. Sarah and I just got new numbers just last week, okay? And I'm happy to say when I started, again, 12 years ago, the allocation was 847,000,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's up to almost 2.7 million. So that's something that's really increased. It's funding, benefits of retirement
Mhm.
people in the community. And that's our portion. We got the actual, it's 2,696,000, which is only a 3% increase. However, if we're aggressive and we want to pay it all by July 31st,
Mhm.
first time what they're doing is they're offering communities discounts. So we can get a 1% discount or save up to $34,000 if we pay it by July 31st, both halves. Usually we do one January, one in July, but they're saying if you want to pay both halves in July,
Okay.
you can receive a $34,000.
Right.
And that's going to take some looking at the cash flow to see
I was
where.
gonna say, are we in a position to be able to take advantage of that?
Exactly, and that's something I'm looking into now. I believe so. Our CDs are liquid, and if we can save 34 grand,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, if we have to dig into one of those, you're not going to get near the amount of interest to make up $34,000.
Right.
So,
That's what you save if you pay it by July 31st?
Right, $34,000 discount.
Right.
It's the first time they're doing it, Hampton County Retirement offering that type of discount. So I mean, the towns that have good cash flow
Good.
may be able to do it, and
Mhm.
it is a good way to pick up some significant savings.
Mhm. Great. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
And once again, we'll review these and get back to you if there's any questions or anything before the 6th, and then on the 13th, if it gets green flag, it'll go on to the appropriations. So,
Okay, any questions you have, just whistle.
thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Tom. Take care.
All right. Our 6:45 appointment is Dan Hellier.
And I want to apologize for not getting off, but we've been just overburdened with inspections.
Is that a good thing?
Am I
Does
the
that mean
only
people are
person that's
building?
gonna shake his hand?
Well,
Well, I'm gonna shake his
So I
hand, but
can
he's.
sit down.
we have grown
Yes.
immensely. Big effort was to make sure that Bay Path is getting open on time.
Yes. It's a beautiful building.
Despite not being 100% complete. And my budget is, once again, is as simple as it comes.
All right. I'll let you sit down first if you want.
Somebody got my one that I know, but that's okay.
Which one?
Angela may have had the notes on that, right?
No, there's no notes on that.
Okay.
But it does look like, so far as, there's no increase, there's a negligible increase in salaries. So there's a 0% increase in salaries and 2% on, in your other office
That is
items.
correct.
If there's anything you want to get, specifically talk to us about.
Okay. What I'd like to talk to you about is on the second page, and it's regarding my electrical, plumbing, gas inspectors.
Mhm.
Currently, they make $25 an hour. These gentlemen have to be certified by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, along with having to hold a master's license in their discipline. And for $25 an hour, I wish I could get an electrician for $25 an hour. It'd be nice. And then the only other increase, well, I show communications wireless because we pay for Mr. Legou's, a percentage of Mr. Legou's cell phone,
Mhm.
considering he uses his own personal cell phone.
And what's that percentage?
Excuse me?
What is that percentage?
That increase is actually 167%, but it's only $500 a year. It just sounds big, doesn't it? It goes from 300 to 800.
I just wondered what the percentage of
It
reimbursement
sounds high,
was.
doesn't
Yeah,
it?
how much of his bill are we reimbursing?
Right. That's all I
Um,
wanted to know.
is
I
that-
can check with
Yeah.
Sarah.
We are reimbursing him $66 a month. It's the amount for the line that he needs for here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right.
Okay.
Very good.
It's a salary and then mileage. I'm requesting a 15% increase in mileage for my part-time inspectors. Right now, they get, they receive a, what we so-called a stipend for mileage,
Mhm.
and they get $150 a month for mileage. And they're doing up to 8 inspections a day. And sometimes it's all over town, sometimes it's close, but we don't know
Mhm.
until they call it in. But both of them are averaging between 6 and 8 inspections a day.
And we don't know, not to nitpick, but the mileage that they're going, right?
Right.
The going rate right now is 55.5
Well, no, I
cents.
know that, but I'm just saying, how many miles do they travel? Like, if they do eight inspections in a day, how many miles do they travel?
They'll
Do you know?
travel
Oh.
approximately 35 miles.
Okay.
That would probably be close to an average.
All right.
And my mileage is in there too, so.
Okay.
And mine didn't change, it's just an increase for them. Okay, and that is it.
Okay. Any questions from anybody on the board?
Not at this time, but I will
Okay.
later.
If you have any questions.
All right, thank you, Dan.
know where I live. I think everybody knows where I live. I know everybody's got my cell phone number because they called me on Christmas Eve to go out and do a final.
Oh, boy.
At 4:30
Residential or commercial?
residential. If it was a commercial,
would've said no.
I would have been there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Have a happy New Year.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
All right. Next person is Ryan Quimby. I like how anxious everybody is. This is such dedicated people. Get out of here, you want to get out of here. One of the two, I can't tell what it is.
All the above.
Yeah. I wasn't talking about the board. All right. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Everybody had a good Christmas?
Yes.
Very good Christmas.
All right. So as you heard the routine, so if you want to just give us an overview of your regular budget and then your supplemental requests.
Sure. To start off on the regular budget, salaries is just contractual step increases. Same thing with the longevity,
Mhm.
that's a bigger dollar amount, that's the increases for, to the contracts. If you go down to expenses, it looks like there's a lot of changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just rearranging things into different categories.
Okay.
Instead of having everything under one line item, we kind of broke it out a lot. And with the telephones, we actually reduced that over 5,000 already just in the first year. And we hope to reduce it more going forward. Right now, we pay about $2,000 a month for landlines. 1,500 of that is copper lines. 500 is the voice over IP, or that's like a little over 400 for the voice over
Okay.
IP side. The voice over IP side, if we took over all the copper lines into the voice over IP, we could probably get it down to below, probably about $600
Wow.
from 2,000. So that's the 5,000 from the repairs. With the capital investment, we will be replacing some phone systems, and that'll bring down the repair costs. Our unscheduled maintenance repairs is also reduced because we are replacing, through capital investment, a lot of computers. So newer
Okay.
computers need less fixes.
Mhm.
The other big number with the IT budget is maintenance contracts. Every year, our maintenance contracts go up around 5%. What we do is, what really saved us this year is our content filter. We had 2 of them, because they were both on the older side. They're about a little over 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We pay for advanced replacement, so if one of them fails, they, no questions asked, send us a new one. Ours were old and not failing, but we kind of convinced them that they did. So we got a new one, and we can drop the maintenance on the other old one now. So since we have one new one, it's reliable, we don't need to maintain 2 of them anymore.
I'm gonna ask a real silly question.
Sure.
The new one that was sent, was that free?
Yep. Yep, it's part of the maintenance contract
Wasn't a
that we
silly
pay.
question.
I just wanted to hear it.
Yeah.
I was planning for the worst and hoping for the best.
There you go.
No,
Okay.
because we were looking at, to replace that with a new model, it
Mhm.
was about $25,000. So
Okay.
after a couple of support phone calls, and we
Mhm.
convinced them that it needs to be replaced under the warranty, and they did
Okay.
so.
Good
You know,
job.
And I'm gonna guess the communication wireless went away to communication internet and communication telephone?
Yep, split that up.
All right.
Now, let's see what else we got.
There's no other real,
No, it's, the actual budget comes in under the 2%,
Mhm.
Until you hit the huge supplemental budget,
Okay.
which actually is just, brings it up to the 2%.
Okay.
The one thing in the supplemental is overtime. Currently, my 5 union employees are paid just the regular 37.5 hours.
Mhm.
And if we cannot have reimbursable overtime, like through like an insurance or something,
Mhm.
then they just get paid with, or reimbursed with comp time. I have 2 employees that are both expecting children. So this was kind of a way to get that where they can actually get some cash instead of some
Okay.
time off.
all right,
That's my supplemental.
great. Very
The
good.
FTEs, that stays the same. 4 full-time salaried, 1 half-time bookkeeper that is shared with accounting and with the rec department, and then 1 appointed.
I don't suppose you can get any volunteers.
Hey,
We
you
actually
know-
do this year, we have a student volunteer, and hopefully we'll have some more next year.
We may have some, the way the population's aging, you may have some IT specialists eventually that
I
are
know.
retirees who want to work off some of their insurance, some of their tax bills, so, all right. Very good. Any questions from the board?
I just gotta ask you, Ryan,
Yeah.
all this equipment you got, you know who has it, and you got serial numbers on all this stuff?
Yep, when we distributed all the new computers,
Yep.
they actually, we made them sign for them as well, by
Okay.
serial number. So you've got serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're signing, it says you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Can I get a copy of that, or is that too difficult?
But, well, it's not that it's difficult, it's just I think it might be sensitive. I can get clarification on that.
Okay. Second part?
I do, but it's nothing that can wait until a further conversation.
All right, very good.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
You got it?
Oh, I do, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. How often do you go to conferences?
Not that much.
Not that,
Probably
how many did
3
you go
to
to
4 a
last
year.
year?
I'd say probably 4.
You went to 4 last year?
Yeah, I'm co-chair of the State Municipal IT Board, as well as on the advisory board for the Massachusetts Digital Government Summit.
Okay.
So being a co-chair of that, it's 2 meetings to set the agenda for the Digital Government Summit, and then the other one hasn't really been active
Okay.
with
And
the new
where,
administration.
whereabouts are those meetings held?
In Boston.
In Boston.
The state government board, IT board, moved around.
Right,
Sometimes it was in Springfield, Worcester.
okay.
How many people are on that board?
Which one?
The one that
State.
actually meets?
It's about 30 people.
Okay. I was just curious,
So
because
the people on the board?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I-
CIOs of like Harvard, state CIO, the CIO of the DESI. You know what
Okay,
DESI is.
so how many people are in the whole association? If there are 30 people on the board,
It's an advisory board, so
Okay.
they had the Digital Government Summit, which,
okay,
6,000-7,000 people go to.
okay.
Well, the only reason I asked is it's definitely a feather in our cap to have you, Chief Mellis, let's see, who else was, Colin. Carolyn.
Chief
yep,
Morissette?
yep.
Chief Morrison.
Yeah, everybody's on, on state advisory boards, and it's a definite feather in our town's cap, even though it is some additional work, but it says a lot about the people that we hire and the quality of the people that we have, so, which is a compliment to all of you, so. In any event, I think we're done.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We are running a few minutes early. I see the chief is here. Do you have to wait for the person who actually does these, or are you doing this tonight?
Hey.
I'm sorry, I digress.
Hey.
And I'm
Leave our chief alone.
And I'm a friend, so come on up, chief.
I give it that out, he's gonna go up.
Well, you know what I said at your, well, I said the same thing at your installation, basically. How are you?
Yeah, thanks. Angela, how are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hello, Nick.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Couple
Related.
days late.
Yeah, just a little, that's a
Little early
few.
for-
It's still
for
Christmas
New
spirit.
Year's.
All right.
Rocco, can you get that knife out of the back?
I thought the Kevlar stretched all the way around, but I guess it. All right. Obviously, what we're doing tonight is just giving us an overview of your budget, and then we will review those. And on the 6th, if we have any questions, we'll get back to you by then, and then you can get them to the appropriations by the 13th. And just as a personal comment, looking at your budget, I noticed it's amazing what happens when you replace veterans with rookies.
Absolutely,
You
yes.
actually,
Angela.
it makes it stressful in the financial part. I don't know about the work part, but.
Thank you. Yes, right. That it does. And basically, that's the result. We had some, we had some retirements, we have some more pending retirements, and the figures have dropped dramatically, based on, since FY13. So those are,
And you basically, besides the drop in various salaries and related items because of retirements and replacements, you have absolutely no changes in your budget. So you have, which Sarah's happily smiling at.
well, we basically match what 15s
Right,
was
right.
with 16s. That's not to say, in the letter I gave you folks,
Yeah, I
Right.
did see that.
to help restore some of that. And
Right.
Based on that letter, Mr. Chairman, when Governor Patrick came in, we were an earmarked community to the tune of $38,000 a year, community policing money, that we did a lot of specialized training,
Mhm.
school resource positions, other positions, courses that we gave the officers on top of their required in-service training that they received. So we had resources. We had money that wasn't coming from the town, being awarded through the state to use for that. And since that time, since 2009, when that's basically gone away,
Mm.
we've kind of passed up on some training exercises.
Mhm.
So the letter that I request, if there is monies to be found,
Mhm.
if we could afford that, that's kind of, I mean, I can get hard facts on these programs, but not every program's offered throughout the state on a calendar period.
Mhm.
And what I'm trying to do is get additional training for our detectives and create a second detective's position.
Oh.
Joe is going 6 ways to Sunday. How he does it some days, I don't know. We've had 4 sexual assaults in the last couple months, and he's involved in all 4 of those as doing additional backup and investigations into interviewing witnesses and other statements and the like. We've been very successful in our partnerships that we have with the surrounding communities. They have a detectives association that meets once a month, and it's a wealth of information that's gathered there. And we've cleared up some breaks up here at the secured storage facilities through items that are being recovered down in Connecticut.
Mhm.
And it's through his skills as well as the other officers that get the initial call on it, and bringing Joe in it has helped dramatically in solving a lot of these crimes. Now we got some time, we're trying to go back and piece together all outstanding crimes that we've had. And you know, that skimming case that we had talked about before at the TD Bank, as the agent told me, that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing for an agent to come across and be involved in. And
actually catch the
and
perpetrator.
actually catch the
Right.
person. So they've been doing a great job. I'd like to, it also affords movement within the department, that someone gets hired. We have Mike Healy that's going to be getting out of the academy in the end of January. And he's going to know at some point in his career, there's an opportunity to take a promotional exam, but also to become a detective or a school resource officer. When we had that grant money, I had sent additional officers for that training, which now I don't have the resources, I don't have the funding to do that. So I just wanted to put that out there. I will get your hard facts on the various trainings. Some of these trainings they have, it's $345 just for the program. And because of the numbers of my department, if I send you to training tomorrow, guess what? I still got to cover the 3 shifts that you're going to be away for the 3 days of training. So it incurs overtime. You know, you're not getting paid because it's your assigned day, but Paul and Angela will be working those other 2 shifts at time and a half. And that's been kind of the problem that we've had with the training. And the bulk of our budget has always been laid out as overtime, because it's not broken down. Since I've been here, it's not broken down as training. It's been used as overtime to cover those that are in an in-service training or a firearms training. We draw from the overtime funds for that.
Okay.
So,
All right, yeah, we'll be happy to review this, and then, in light of the fact that your budget has been reduced, this might be a good time to present this to appropriations as something that, you know, they might want to consider, so.
right.
All right. Any questions?
Yeah, what you're asking us here, Paul, would cover all that?
For now, to get another detective,
All right.
we'd have to juggle shifts to make sure that we have
Yeah,
proper
right.
staffing.
Yep.
And that's not to say next year I might come back, and how successful this goes, I might say, hey, you know, we might need another officer. You know, calls for service have gone up, and it's a vicious circle is what we're doing, is we're looking into it now. I've already have 4 officers trained, 2
Yeah.
with a 2-week DEA course, drug enforcement course, to do surveillance, to do narcotics activity. And it's a vicious circle. They're not shoplifting because they're trying to make $10 on a pair of baby's diapers or formulas. They're shoplifting because they're supporting a habit. And unfortunately, it's a vicious circle that's going on and on. So that 50 is going to be a start, Mr. Cronin.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I love to say it's only $29,000 or something like that,
Yeah.
but I think we need the training. We're in need of that training. We have a much younger department now, and there's more and more activities that are going on. Internet crime, identity theft. It's, you know, we get calls constantly about it. I think someone got my credit card, you know,
Yeah,
they're
where-
buying stuff.
Where do they train them for this, for detective work?
Where do they train?
Yeah.
They have groups throughout the state,
Oh,
like
yeah,
areas
right.
we don't have the facility. I mean, if we had a classroom that could hold, or a building in the station that could hold 20 people for a
Yeah.
classroom or something, we could host one and get a break on it.
Right.
I may work with Dr. Leary at Bay Path with the new facility that they
Oh,
have
yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
to see if we might do it there. And that will subsidize, that will give us like 1 or 2 free seats.
Yeah.
Because we'd be the host agency. But there's a lot, there's more and more that's coming out every day, and as technology changes as well. You know, we have no one really trained in how to do digital photography. So a real serious crime, we're calling out the state police and their crime technicians. But your house break, your car break or something like that, and we have the same pattern going on, we're gonna do the dusting, we're gonna do the photographs, and we're gonna try to hopefully get enough evidence to lock the person up.
Mhm.
So,
good.
as far as the expensive, I apologize. We just level funded that, but we know there will be increases, and I think the caveat in that was
2%.
2%. We would probably be at that 2% increase for that because of various contracts and equipment that we have that have come to fruition,
Okay,
so. but-
very good.
All right.
Any other questions?
Well, just, how soon, timelines that we would get the breakout of this?
The breakout on this, I can
Yes.
try to have it to you by next week. Is that too late?
Well, we're meeting on the 6th, so
Okay, I'll have it before the 6th for you.
Okay.
sounds like a plan.
Sounds good.
Okay,
I look for it.
all right,
Thanks, Chief.
thank you. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Be safe.
Thanks, Angela. Nick, you can.
All right. We are actually like 25, you ready, I guess, huh? I was gonna ask if you were ready, but I can tell.
You must be asking for something big, Leo, I hope you brought.
I know it. I know one thing, we're safe if this place catches on fire, I'll tell you that right now.
What are you going all the way home for?
Good evening, gentlemen.
They're interested. Good evening. Good evening. If I just
How are
can
you?
have 2 seconds to fire this up.
Absolutely.
I brought my IT guy.
He's all our IT guys.
Yes, he is.
Come a long way from the plastic things you have to write on or print on.
The overhead projectors?
Yes.
That's all right. Alrighty. I really appreciate, first of all, the opportunity to give this little extra presentation for my supplemental budget. First of all, I guess we can go through the regular budget before we begin on the supplemental. As you can see, total salaries, there was a 1% decrease because we have 2 newer firefighters. They're still at the lower steps. And we have a 50% decrease in one of the line items. That basically was, there was a retirement payment in this year's budget that's not there next year.
Right.
So we were able to save, considerably for next year. Again, there's no contractual items in that yet. Negotiations
Right,
aren't complete. I didn't figure anything in for that.
Yeah, that's per the request of
Per the request,
appropriations.
right, yep. Going down below, non-salary expenses. I did go to the 2% increase that appropriations had mentioned. And speaking with Sarah, in the past, typically what we've done is with our fuel budget, the previous accountant, when I first became chief, it was, we should raise this up because we always seem to go over. Well, you always have extra in other accounts, so why don't we'll worry about it at the end of the year. I was never comfortable. Sarah's definitely not comfortable. So, working with Sarah, this is, I decided, I took some money away from one of the other accounts, which we seem to be, we don't spend as much in there, it's one of those accounts. So I bumped up the fuel account to try and make it so that we can fit. And this year, we may luck out because the price of fuel has gone down, as everybody's seen it. So we may luck out anyways.
out.
Right, yeah. But, so that's kind of where we're at on my regular budget. I guess before I move forward, any
Yeah, are there any questions from the board regarding this budget?
I have a question, but it's to Sarah. When, you may not know this, when a person gets their degree and because of the degree they're eligible to get a raise, when do we essentially give that to them? If it happens in the middle of a fiscal year, do we wait until the next year? Or do we?
Go right ahead. I know the.
For the fire department,
Yeah.
it's in the first pay period, or second pay period of December, for the
Okay.
fire department.
Part of the contract.
It's
Okay.
contractual.
Okay,
The new firefighter that came on board has a bachelor's degree,
right,
but because he's brand new and we weren't, part of the contract says you have to be there past your probationary period, 9 months to get it. One of the reasons for that is, quite frankly, to budget it. If he came in and I had to give him the stipend for his college degree, I wouldn't
Yeah.
have that in the budget.
right.
So that allows, and that's where it's you see that in this budget increase for next year.
Well, I had a question for another department also.
Okay,
And
but
so-
yeah.
So it could vary from department to department
Depending on if they are a union, depending which union, because each one says something a little different,
Mhm.
or whether they're just a contractual employee.
Okay.
So, you and I can meet later and discuss the particular area that you're concerned about.
Okay. Now going to the supplemental budget. And this presentation here pretty much touches on that, so I'll run through that, and then if there's any questions along the way, please don't hesitate to ask the questions, and hopefully I can have the right answers for you. My 2016 budget proposal, and my supplemental, I'm requesting an additional firefighter to extend our hours that the department's staffed. There's some things that have to happen prior to it, but the number one goal of the department and myself is to improve deployment times of our initial apparatus. That's the first, not myself or the deputy showing up on scene with the fire cars. That's the fire truck showing on scene, and we can actually do some real work. Couple things that have to happen. I need to get your folks' approval, is what we're going through now. I need to get the recommendation from the Appropriations Committee, and meeting with my liaison and meeting with the chairman, it looks like it may be a favorable thing, that they think it might be time. And then, again, we're a town meeting format. It has to go to town meeting in May. The town has to vote favorable for it. If you guys approve it, it gets recommended, but the town doesn't see the need.
Right.
And then, of course, there's always, because the times and the hours change, there's some modifications between the Board of Selectmen and East Long Meadow Permanent Firefighters, which most of the guys are here tonight. They like the idea. They like the fact that, you know, we're gonna be able to provide a better service for the town. Quick history on the fire department's full-time staffing. The first full-time employee was a fire chief back in 1962, followed by in 1969, the town was concerned about firefighter availability. Who's most of the guys, they worked in town, but some of them were starting to branch out and leave the community, and they weren't around as much. So the town, at that point, appointed 4 full-time firefighters. They worked Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The shift has varied a little bit in that first few years, but it's kind of stuck at that 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Weekends and holidays were always off. 1971, they added 1 more additional firefighter, and 1974, they appointed the last 2 career firefighters, you know, bringing it to 7, which is where we are now. It remains unchanged since 1974. We're staffed Monday through Friday, you know, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and unstaffed on the weekends, evenings, and the 11 holidays. Briefly, if you look at the circle graph there, it shows the darker, the green area is when we're staffed, and during a week. Right, during the week. 76% of the time, we're not there. We rely on the call department, which, you know, it's served the town well in the past, you know, 30-something years since 1974. A little bit of history on the town since 1975, and I use the number 1975 because it was easier getting the data. The data was cleaner. Population's up 21%. You know, that number, you know, 2,700 residents, more residents since then. It doesn't seem like a lot until you start looking at some of the other figures that the town's changed. Residential family homes up 51%, 1,800 more homes in town since then. Quite a bit of properties. Everybody's seen the new developments since then. Most of us have been in town since then, so it's, you know, we've seen the town grow. Commercial industrial properties, this is the part that kind of scares the fire department. There's a lot more out there nowadays, and a lot of them are, you know, good-sized buildings, and we have some good-sized buildings now that are vacant, which really tends to scare the fire department. We were up 188 more houses for 101% increase. Back in 1975, we had no condominiums. Now we have 158 of them. This is another scare for the fire department. We have several elderly residents, independent living, assisted living, and nursing home complexes. One of the advantages for the fire department is anything that's relatively new and of a good size, the fire protection systems in are super. It still requires quite a few calls for us for service throughout the year. We can go through any of them, and there's probably 10 or so calls minimum per year for the nursing home complexes, independent living, and assisted living. So, you know, it's a pretty good sized demand for the fire department. Accepted streets, it's funny how you think about streets. The fire department doesn't really concern about the streets, but we have, you know, sometimes it just lengthens our trip to get somewhere. It gives us more places to respond to. We have 96 miles of accepted streets through Bob Parent upstairs. We have probably 113 miles of streets in town that all of them aren't accepted as of yet, and some probably may never. This is the shocker. Anybody that follows real estate or real property, how it's assessed, it's up 930%, an increase of $1.5 billion since 1975. Big increase. So what the fire department's protecting with the same staffing they had back then, the dollar volumes increased dramatically. The fire department's annual number of incident responses has increased 143%. We increased 315 more calls. For the year I ran FY14. This year we're actually up to 620 calls as we speak. We still have 3 days left. So that's, and we float anywhere between the 530 to 600 range. The year of the snowstorm we were way over 700, but that was just those 2 weeks of the snowstorm. It really put a burden on us.
Paul, interrupt you. You say calls. Is that fires?
That's
fires?
incidents that we that's fire alarms. That's yeah. And this is the last slide as far as the growth goes. The total number of firefighters has stayed the same. We've been 7. Just drive that point home one more time. Operationally, the leadership of the department has always had a concern. I was involved with Chief Wallace back in the late 1990s. He came forward with the board back then. One of his big things was our response time. We need to get the trucks there faster, and we can't do it. In 2004, I think it was, they put together the Public Safety Committee, which I'll talk about a little bit. They had the same concern, our response time. So response time is in our eyes, is the initial time when the truck shows up on scene. Which is crucial in any incident, whether you're a homeowner and your fire alarm's going off and you don't know why it's going off, you're under a lot of stress and you're worried that something may be happening inside your house, in the walls, and you just can't see it or smell it. So the quicker we can get there, calm your nerves, diminish your fears, it makes our job go smoother in their job. And if we get there and it is something going on, the quicker we get there, fire tends to grow very rapidly. So we want to make sure if it is something real, or if it is a car accident, somebody's entrapped, we want to make sure we can do our job. One of the standards out there, the fire department, every organization has standards that they tend to strive for, and they try, and the national groups tend to govern them. It's a standard, it's not a law, it's not a rule, but the National Fire Protection Agency has a standard for deployment of fire suppression operations, and their goal is 240 seconds or 4 minutes travel time to 90% of it, 90% of incidents. The East Long Meadow Fire Department currently can do that when we're staffed. We hit that 4-minute mark 90% of the time or more when we're in the building. There's a few stretches in town, Allen Street, the Hamden line. That's a long ride, even if we're in the building. But for the most part, our calls we hit that 4-minute mark. Now, from 4 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning, we hit that 10-minute mark. And there are times, if we were to break it down per hour, it's actually more than that. And that's a little bit of reasons why the hours I chose. And just for facts of what we did and what we'd pick up, in 2014 we responded to 535 incidents. Almost 50% of it, 43% of it, was why we were covered full-time operation. 57% of it was during the remaining time. So that's kind of what our circle graph looks like if we stay the same way we're operating now. So we're losing. We're not even covering 50% of our possible incidents.
But you are, not that this matters, but your full-time people are only on 24% based on your 24% of the time.
Correct.
But you're covering 43%
Well, that's
of the calls.
exactly where I'm going.
It's not, yeah. It's weird that you think it'd be the same percentage basically, the majority of.
Waking hours, there's more calls.
Okay.
Yep. Calls during the day, there's more calls. Again, here we get some of the facts about us. We're currently staffed 2,000 hours, or 23% of the year. And that's because of the 11 holidays we have off. And so instead of being like the weekly, it's 24%. It works out to 23% of the year. The department's response is currently handled by call firefighters for 6,700 hours, basically, for the rest of the year. It goes back to that same graph, basically 24%, 23%, 77% when we're covered. This is when, in 2008, the East Long Meadow Public Safety Advisory Committee actually submitted recommendations to the Board of Selectmen to increase the fire department's hours of coverage. That report, from what we understand, and I believe there's a member of that committee in the room now, but that report was tabled. No action was ever taken on it. One of their beliefs was that the option should be submitted to be considered the goal for the fire department to move 24/7. That's not what I'm looking for this evening. You folks have seen my initial letter. But they did suggest that the town implement a gradual buildup of the fire department. And that's kind of where I'm going right now. There's some hours of concern that I have for the fire department's response, and we'll get into a little bit of that in a little bit. Deciding which hours to extend the coverage. Looking at the data we collected, Sunday through Saturday, 7 days a week, if we worked 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we would pick up 74% of those incidents. So now that pie graph would look almost 3/4 full, and we're only working 50% of the time, 50% of the hours. Again, those calls seem to fall in the waking hours, the breakfast hours, the evening dinner hours. This is an increase in 232 calls, or 162 calls over the initial. So that's how our graph looks now. So now we're picking up quite a bit of coverage, and we're leaving 26% of the percentage of the calls that are still covered by the call fire department. The proposal, again, would be 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., including holidays, which now we have holidays off. We would work a total of, the department would be staffed a total of 84 hours per week. over 4,300 hours a year, which is an increase of 2,300 hours, over 2,300 hours a year. If this is approved at that town meeting, there's certain steps that need to be taken. Hire one additional firefighter to bring the full-time firefighters to 8. Split the full-time firefighters into 2 groups of 4 firefighters. Create a full-time captain's position for the second group. Right now, we run with the deputy, he runs the group. Each group would work 4 days in a row, alternating from group to group. Each full-time firefighter would be paid on a 42-hour week based on a 28-day work cycle, following federal and state regulations, Fair Labor Standards Act, and there's a lot of stuff that says how they should get paid for that. Some weeks they're working 48 hours, other weeks they're working 36 hours. So if you average it out over the 28-day work cycle, it brings you down to the 42. Now, the cost, everybody talks about the cost. Well, they want to know the bottom line. The budget increase for the fire department's current budget would be $65,405. Now that is today's rates. That's without negotiations completed, leaving what they get paid. Everything stays the same. Plus an estimated overhead cost anywhere between $4,300 and $10,800, depending on where they fall for the health insurance. You know, that's a gamble on who gets hired, and if they take the health insurance. If they don't take the health insurance, that's
Mute.
It's nothing, right? The $65,000 is a 9% increase over my current budget. That provides 1,190 hours for fiscal year 2016. That's for half the year, and in the next couple of slides kind of explain why it's only half a year. Based on the increase in the budget, $65,000, a homeowner whose house is valued at $300,000 would pay an additional $12 per year for this coverage.
Can I ask what's probably a stupid question? Homeowners insurance. Does it matter if you have a majority call firefighter town or if you have more full-service firefighters?
It would in the
as far as your
long
rates?
term if it was a full-time department.
Okay.
Because we'd still be a combination department, and we just went through an ISO rating, which I think the board saw part of that.
Yeah.
That, which is only some insurance companies use that anyways. So it would, in the long term, short term, you probably wouldn't see any decrease.
I was just trying to figure out a way to justify that to the homeowner that it costs you $12, but if it saves you X amount in homeowners insurance, then okay, thank you.
Yep. And next question is what's going to happen in 2017, because this is based on a half a year. The department continues to operate the same way, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. We would start July 1st, as soon as the fiscal 2017 budget were to begin. That budget would increase almost $49,000, a 6% increase over the overall my FY16 budget. And the reason for the time frame, the new firefighter would start sometime in October by attending the Massachusetts Fire Academy. Once he completes the academy, the new coverage would begin. Depending on what his start date was and what his completion date was, estimated best guess that I could give is December 27th, 2015. So it's about a half a year of 7 days a week coverage. This time frame gives the board, the chief, and the local several months to make the changes to the agreement to meet the new hours for work. But it also gives the town time to absorb the increase over a 2-year plan, as opposed to coming in with $105,000 or $110,000 and saying, we're going to go tomorrow, we're going to go Monday, and we're going to start 7 days a week. This gives the town a time to absorb it. Just to go back a little bit, call firefighters. The town has, and still does, live with the call firefighters. The call firefighters are the fire department. We can't, the full-time guys can't do the job without the call firefighters and vice versa. But since 1974, the life of a call firefighters have changed quite a bit. Many of the call firefighters have dual income families at home, and many families are involved in different activities that weren't around back then. The cross wasn't around back then. There's Dan Fazio, who's one of my lieutenants on a call department. He's the Dan Fazio that Colin was talking about that runs the lacrosse program. So we have really active firefighters on the department that are involved in many different things, and some of them own their own businesses. So it's getting harder and harder for these firefighters to make the 100% commitment that they'd really like to. So this proposal would actually hopefully lessen some of the burden that these guys, especially at certain times, the 6 o'clock in the morning time when they're getting ready to commute to their job, they're taking care of their kids before they have to go to work, before they drop them off to school, and as they're coming home from work, or as they're bringing their kids to soccer, or before their wives come home, whatever's going on in their lives. So this gives them a little bit of, breathing room. We still need them because the department's only going to have 4 guys in the station. If something big comes in, it's push the button, get the call firefighters, get the other full-time firefighters, get Long Meadow, get Wilbraham, get Springfield. That's how the system works, and that's how we hopefully continue to work. Just a brief history on Long Meadow. Our next door neighbor town is very similar in size, a little bit less in square miles, but their population's actually dropped. Their history of the fire department's a little bit different than ours. In 1959, they went full-time, and they progressed to where they are now with 21 full-time firefighters. A little bit different with them. They run the town ambulance service. It's a full paramedic service. And you can see their call response is a little bit higher than ours, 2,268, but 62% of that is EMS calls, EMS-based calls. Wilbraham, very similar, town-wide, size-wise. They have more square miles. They actually have 2 fire stations. They started in '68, somewhat similar to what we're trying to do. They were 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Then they finally increased to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to where they are now with 22 career firefighters. They, again, respond to 2,400 calls. About 68% of them are EMS in nature. One possible additional benefit to all of this, if I could just, throw my 2 cents in, and if this plan doesn't meet your approval, but this may be something you guys could think about in the future anyways. Several of the full-time career guys currently hold EMT certifications. There's been some delays with with AMR calling Long Meadow, and Long Meadow takes a little more time. These guys are willing to talk to the board about possibly responding with an engine company to begin life-saving measures. They have the techniques. We have the equipment. We have the AEDs. We have the oxygen. We have the stuff. And if it's one of those things where if AMR is going to be delayed, and you got Long Meadow coming, you got Wilbraham coming, you got some other ambulance service coming, if there's firefighters in the station that could get to Quarry Hill or get to the senior center or get somewhere and provide life-saving assistance, these guys are willing to get involved.
Aren't they doing that now, though?
No.
No.
The only time we actually get called for a medical is a lift assist, believe it or not.
Oh.
Unless it's a car accident and we happen to be there, which we've done. I mean, and these guys are great at it. They have awesome bedside manner. It's and it is part of their job, but we don't get called regularly.
Okay, got it.
Sometimes it is kind of frustrating when you see Long Meadow Fire go drive by us to the ambulance, and they go up Quarry Hill. It's like, damn, we could have been there.
Through the board?
Yep.
Are some of the police trained for that also?
I don't know if they're EMTs. I know by Mass statute, we have to be certified first responders for first aid and also CPR trained, which everybody on our fire department is.
Yeah.
But there's several guys, four of the career guys have gone beyond that, and there's a few call-out firefighters who've also done that as well. Yeah. Severe medical calls, just because I wrote that in the other one, could be defined basically as difficulty breathing or chest pains. If somebody's has a headache, maybe they don't need the fire department to respond. They can wait. But if it's comes in as chest pains, Talks about this delay. In my conclusion, I think with the growth the town has seen since 1974, the fire department's protecting over 5,300 homes, 150 condominiums, 6 elderly housing complexes, 1 independent living, 2 assisted living facilities, and 3 nursing homes, as well as 5 schools and over 350 commercial occupancies. One interesting fact that I learned doing all this, 36% of our current town population are senior citizens and children under the age of 17. These are the ones that are most vulnerable to the effects of fire, which this type of project, moving this forward, would help protect them. You talked about how to balance that $12 cost for the residents. I think the value that they would get out of that $12, knowing that there's a fire truck ready to respond for their incident, for whatever they may have. I think it's cheap. But I think that an increase of 15% over 2 years, where my possible incidents that we're going to grab is 74% of them, to meet that 4-minute response time, I think it's a good bang for the buck for the town. And I would appreciate the ability to at least move it forward, get it through appropriations, and bring it to the town floor, let the town vote on it. And I would be willing to, with the board's review, modify this as you think, and I would be willing to stand in front of the town floor and make a presentation for the town meeting.
Good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we should, I think it's important that the town knows about it. And lastly, I'd like to thank, a lot of the information I got through Diane in the assessor's office, Tom Florence's office. Marge was great getting us some numbers. Sarah, I worked with Sarah getting some numbers. The help I received was unbelievable.
Thanks, Chief. Speaking for myself, I know, and with all due respect, I know we're a call firefighter, more or less based, but the idea of the 4-minute as opposed to 10-minute response time, increasing that was my answer for the offset of the $12 per household. I mean, that
Right.
just that security, knowing that
Yep.
you're going to get, someone's going to get there in a quicker time and be able to do more. I mean, I think, and once again, I'm not speaking for the board, I'm speaking for myself, that it is time that we bring the fire department into the 21st century. So,
Awesome.
all right, thank you. Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I don't like it because I live down Allen Street. All the way down
Just because he
Allen
can't get to your house.
I do have one little bit of information. The Selectman Gorman was in, he stopped in just before the holiday, and he talked about full-time coverage, and I think you and I had the same conversation when you were in, Angela, and I ran the numbers. We need to phase it. It's $585,000 increase based on today's numbers to do that, and I think if we did that all at once, that would scare the town.
Right.
And to be honest with you, to put 9 new full-time firefighters in the mix all at once, and in 4 different shifts it's baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Well,
I'm willing to take on anything the board wants me to take on, but I think, you guys put me here to hopefully at least bring the information forward to the board, and that's what I'm doing.
And you do it this way, as you ease it in, people will see the effect of it, and that'll make it
Absolutely.
easier to increase the, from there, so.
I gotta ask you one more question if I go
Yeah.
to the board.
Sure.
The call firefighters,
Yep.
now that's gonna dwindle that down.
I don't think it's gonna dwindle it down. I think, like I said, we're working 6, 8 o'clock till 6 in the evening. That's gonna lessen the burden that they have. There's
But is that gonna tick them off?
I don't think so.
mean,
Most of the guys that I've talked to are in favor of it.
There.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's some guys that, and you saw I think you folks have seen the letter that's on the agenda next week. Some of these guys, their lives are just going in different directions, and it's hard for them to make a commitment, and that's why he did what he did. He just his life is in. And it's going in a great direction for him right now, and I'm happy for him. But he couldn't commit like he wanted to for the fire department, and he wants to make sure that he can, make sure there's a spot open if need be,
Mhm.
right? Which leads me to the last point on my supplemental.
You will pull from one of them?
We have in the past.
Yeah.
We have, and that's, I would continue to do the same.
Yeah.
Right. Be honest with you, it's a 4-year-long, 5-year, 7-year-long job interview as a call firefighter. These guys, we work with these guys, we know them,
Yeah.
and it's a job interview, basically. We know what their work ethic's like, and, and how they get along with.
Do you think you would have a harder time getting called firemen, knowing that?
I don't think, I think we have, it's difficult right now, and Angela came to the graduation and she heard some of the stuff for the call firefighters, what they go through. That 6-month commitment's a huge commitment. There's a few gentlemen in town who would be outstanding call firefighters, but to commit to that 2 nights a week, Saturdays and Sundays, some Saturdays and some Sundays, it's a huge commitment, and between their families and their professional lives, they just can't do that. Would I love to get these guys on a department? Absolutely, because I know these guys. I mean, but it's hard. I don't think this scares them. I think the commitment required to do the job
Is there an
scares
age
them.
limit?
69.
What was the question? I'm sorry, what was the question?
Is there an age limit?
Oh.
You can climb trees and go
I-
up ladders.
You know what?
Through the chair. Perhaps it would be well-served if we were to maybe perhaps go to a 5-year plan showing how we could go full-time and what the cost. And
The steps to take.
allocation. Yeah, exactly.
I could put something together. You wouldn't have it for the 6th, though.
Oh, okay.
But I could put something together. Maybe for. And,
Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Because this is the first step, is to get
Right,
this.
this is the first step, and I think it's a workable plan. Like I say, I think most of the department, and I probably say 99% of the department on board.
Okay.
People have actually called me, talked to me about it. Call firefighters. We've met, we've talked, and so it's. I've been above board with everybody on the department. That's kind of how I do my job. I don't keep anything out. I don't hide stuff. So I didn't come here. I invited everybody from the department to come down here tonight.
You didn't force them.
I did not. No, I didn't twist their arm. And do I look like a guy who can force somebody?
But my own opinion, I think you should present something like this at the town meeting.
Yeah, well, that would be the next
It would-
step after,
yeah.
once
Right,
we okayed it,
right.
so.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I would work with the board, show you guys the draft of the presentation, and if you think we should change it around and add more stuff or take stuff away. And I don't have an issue. I think I know the data pretty fluently, and I know, the fire department. The 20-something years on the department. I look forward to, serving another 10 or 15 years. So I'm game.
I think
Great.
the more information we get out to the public, the better.
Absolutely, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this. And Don was going to videotape. He videotaped it, so we,
Yeah.
and it's a start.
Yeah.
And
Great.
I'm willing to meet with the senior center, or I talked to the Rotary about it briefly, and so
Yep.
any groups that want to talk.
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Did a great job.
Thank you.
Great job. You got applause.
I want to thank all you guys and girls
Yes,
for
thank
coming
you.
down.
Let me just
back
slide
here,
this out of the
Chief.
way and I'll get out of
Thank
here.
you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Happy New Year, everyone. I kind of figure you're not going to stay for the rest of the meeting. So, even if someone has to ring a fake call or something, just to get you out of there.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Wow, it got a little warmer. Could you stay a little longer?
Happy New Year, guys.
Bring the
Be
heat.
safe. Be safe out there.
Happy New Year.
Take care, Ed.
New Year.
See you, Ben.
That the bride?
Good night.
All right. Our next person is Mr. Mackey. How are you, sir?
Very well. Good evening.
Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Mrs. Thorpe. And you are here. And your budget, unlike the other budgets, is not directly town funded. It's funded by the fine folks who
Charter subscribers.
Yes, charter subscribers.
So I'll just hand you, I just printed this out. I think Angela has this from the LCAT committee, but this
Thank you.
is basically, if you look at the top right, will show you the money that comes in from charter, goes into what's called the LCAT revolving fund. And, you know, we've operated for many years on the revenue that comes in each year. That revenue is determined by the terms negotiated by the selectmen with the cable provider.
Which we'll be doing again soon.
We are essentially that's a 3-year process. We're about a year and a half into that. So, just for the sake of the discussion and the budget discussion, all of our revenue, the source of all of our funding comes from this revolving fund, and I'm just showing you the balances here. So we're looking at roughly $360,000. So we are proposing a couple of things in the supplemental for this year for the first time in several years. And then just to clarify that the money will be coming from that fund and is already there.
Right.
So, I also...
No taxation.
No taxation. I also want to express that LCAT has a advisory committee that advises the Board of Selectmen, and that in the past, coming up on a year now, has been extremely active. We've got a great group and have spent a lot of time discussing really what the committee feels the direction is that LCAT needs to go in. Had a lot of advice and support from some very talented citizens who serve on that committee. And the budget developed really out of discussions in that committee. So I want to make that point because I'm very grateful that the committee has been as supportive as they have been in the past year and really has encouraged me to sort of press on with some of the things that I've sort of envisioned. But so.
And that's part of finding out what the committees are doing and asking them to get active. And Don, you lucked out. People stepped up to the plate just asking them.
I did luck out.
Yes, you did.
So
lucked out.
Now,
yes,
this information, how does this relate to what we already have?
I only just wanted to give you a number on what the balance is in the account.
And you've also done the renovations to the studios.
We've done the
and things
renovations, yes.
through this and the, yep.
So we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
No, I know. I was just saying that as far as your self-funding, if we will. You know.
Self-funding, we paid for the renovation, right. So, as far as this year's budget, the only increase for the salary lines on the regular budget is due to the increase in pay weeks.
Okay.
So there's no increase for myself or anybody else.
For the increase in what, did you say that?
In the salary line items.
Yep.
The only increase is because there's another
Point
0.2.
2 weeks.
Right,
yeah.
we go from 52.2 to 52.
It's .10.
No, it's 0.2, which is 1 day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
In the non-salary expenses, thanks to the LCAT committee and also, again, the wonderful new town accountant, Sarah Menard, has really gotten a lot of praise tonight, and it's well-deserved. So one of the things that has resulted from all the discussion and some of the changes that have been taking place is I've been able to have a lot more input than I had in the past in restructuring the LCAT budget, and that's been great. Sarah's been very helpful. So a lot of what you see there is shifting amounts that were spent under one code into a code system that is clearer and really specifies what those expenses are for. So we have, you know, and I'm just trying to give some idea for the people who are watching what we're talking about here. So we've moved $850 for event announcers. Now, currently, almost all of our announcing is done by high school students. We do have a couple of people, we have a hockey announcer. So there's $850 there for the year for announcers who we may have to pay to do certain games. That got moved out of an account where a lot of things were lumped together. Office supplies, we have office supplies, paper, staples, DVDs, that kind of thing. Somewhat separate from studio supplies. So studio supplies would be equipment that we might, not capital equipment that has to be replaced, but, you know, recorders or things that, you know, might be more than just copy paper. So we broke those out as separate expenses. And added a line item of $150 to reimburse employees' mileage. My employees, if we do away games, which we do, they're driving, they're using their own cars to go to all these events. And I wanted to be able to, if they're driving out of town, you know, to do a football game in Northampton, to be able to reimburse them for mileage.
Okay.
The other new item, and we have not paid for several years, is basically a membership in an organization called Mass Access, which just gives us access really to programming that's produced across the state for free. So
That's what that 250 is.
that's the 250, yep. So that's something that we've had in the past. It's lapsed for a while, but they've sort of reorganized, and I think we're going to do that.
Now, just a quick question.
Yes.
So you'll have the access to it, and that in turn will give the viewers access to it, or will you give them?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great.
So it will
everybody's-
allow us to bring in, actually, programming from around the state and actually from across the country.
Okay.
That is being produced by other access centers.
Okay.
Or other producers. And Mass Access provides now it's, you know, a sharing website where basically we can download those programs. We do that to a limited degree now, but they've improved their operation.
Great.
So that's, I think it justifies
Good to
joining
know.
the organization and paying the
Exactly.
dues again. So that takes us to, unless there's any questions on the
Any questions
regular
on
budget?
the-
I'm on the committee, so.
So then we go to the supplemental, and the big difference here is, and you just approved, really not that long ago in October, I believe, a new sports director, that was a half-time, has been a half-time position. One of the things that came out of the discussion with the LCAT committee is that we're busy. We cover a lot of events. We do a lot of meetings. I spend a fair amount of time providing instruction to the high school kids. And it's really time to have somebody who can step up and start to do some of what I do. Not because I don't want to do it, but
No. Only 24 hours in a day.
right.
Superman.
And I think as the you know, the nature of what we do changes, the technology changes. I know a lot of stuff that I've learned in the 6 years that I've been here. I think for the sake of the future and for the town, it's really time to think about what's that future going to look like, and, you know, how are we going to provide for that. So, again, That came with a lot of support and encouragement from the LCAT committee.
Mhm.
So what we've done is remove the halftime sports position and create one FTE for an assistant director.
Okay.
So that is really the primary increase to the supplemental budget.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then the last page, I'll just mention briefly, we do appreciate and get a lot of help from student volunteers primarily. We've got a few adult volunteers. And certainly, I would acknowledge the time put in by the volunteers on the LCAT committee, but also production volunteers. So those numbers are broken out there. And then the last item, regarding the warrant articles, the Appropriations Committee asked for any warrant articles that we might put forward. Our warrant article is simply going to be to turn back the outstanding balances in the 2 years of capital projects. That's amount is about $51,000. So we will ask that those funds be put back into the revolving fund.
That's excess
Okay.
from the.
So that's it.
Building the studio.
Very good. All right, thank you. We will review these and.
What's so nice about yours is that it's no tax down.
Well, I'm very
Of course, there's no
appreciative.
such thing as a free lunch.
No. And we do
Those
try
are
to
as
be,
close as we're
we
gonna
do
come.
try
Those of us
to
who
spend it thoughtfully.
Who enjoy the pleasures of charter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Happy
Yep.
New Year.
I think we all enjoy it because we put it on YouTube. Because it puts everything there.
True. Sarah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
I'd like to begin by continuing to pat you on the back, because besides the fact that everyone who's come in here tonight has your assistance, and I think I've said this before, but you, with this job, you hit the ground running, and you've done a wonderful job, and
Thank you.
you're a quick study.
Thank
And
you.
I know I've heard nothing but good things about you, so.
Thank you very
it was,
much.
You know, it's great to have you here, and I'm very happy that all the department heads are getting to use your talents, and seems like everyone's loving what you're doing, so.
It's been my pleasure so far.
And I will echo those compliments, accolades.
Thank you. Okay, so,
So you're supposed to tell us the best is yet to come.
oh, just wait till after I complete 1 year. Anyway, so for my salary budget, it is just my step increases, the normal things that we have in there. For my non-salary expenses, you will see that I just did a lot of shifting. I'm big at wanting expenses to be easier to read and be in consistent categories, so there was just some shifting there. My biggest items you will see are the professional training seminars line item. My staff has not had training that I feel meets the needs of the changing regulatory environment, and so I would like to have trainings in all aspects, accounting and payroll, just to make sure that we are constantly meeting all of the changes that are happening, as well as seminars that I would like to attend for myself to make sure that I stay on top of all of the changes. You will notice one item here, the auditing. I would ask that we reduce that actually by $4,000 because I have spoken with the school, and $4,000 of that budget relates to the school's end-of-year report, and so I feel, in keeping with the transparency, that's a school-related audit item, and so that budget item just be transferred to the school itself, so the expense as well as the budget for it. So I'm not asking to, get a pickup of the $4,000. I just think that it should be with the schools, so then you can properly see all the school's expenses all in one place.
Okay.
The other items on my non-salary budget really aren't very interesting, quite frankly. But it does result in a 7% decrease, actually, in expenses. So overall, for my budget, I'm asking for a 1% decrease in my budget. In my supplemental, I am asking for, currently, one of my employees is a 30-hour-a-week employee. She is my payroll person, and so I'm asking for her to be full-time to 37.5 hours. She currently does receive benefits, so it would just be the additional hours. Right now, she just gets overtime hours when need be. Currently, what's occurring is she is doing a phenomenal job, and my department is really great at supporting one another when things become so busy that you need help. But that means that other items keep getting pushed on the back burner, and we're never able to get to those back burner items. So I want to be able to get to those, so then we can bring our department to the next step. The accounting department does a lot for the town, as well as the payroll, and so we need to grow as the town has been growing. So with that increase, it would actually result in a 2% overall for my entire department. And
Would that increase to be 3% more?
it would be
2%.
2%?
It would be 2%.
Yeah.
And that's keeping her at the current rate that she's making. As we're all aware, union negotiations are occurring, so depending on that, it could change it slightly, but yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. And then I did bring with me, I'm not sure if you want me to talk about them or not, but currently my estimate for the workers' compensation, the liability insurance, and the health insurance, do you want me to talk about that, or do you want me to save that for another time? It's just my best estimates based on information now, but it will be clarified as
Sure, why don't
time
you, if
goes
you've got
past.
got the information, might as well.
Sure. So the employee benefits line, if you were to look at the budget, that's really contingent on payroll. So that will be contingent on however everyone else's departments shape up, and then I can provide an estimate on that. Workers' compensation, I am estimating that it will be $230,000 this for fiscal 16. For fiscal 15, it was $230,000, but then we received approximately $10,000 credit. Based on their review. I'm expecting the same kind of situation, so I'm expecting that it would actually be $240,000 with approximately a $10,000 credit to result in the $230,000, and that's what the trend has been over the past 3 years, so I feel that's a fair assessment. For health insurance, I am assuming currently a 6% increase of fiscal 15 quarter 1 actuals annualized, so that would be a number of $5,495,472. And that is just based on the information that we have available currently, with anticipation that open enrollment will be occurring, and so some individuals may be going from individual to family, or changing, having some, having none. So that number can change, but after open enrollment, then you have a better idea as to how that number will land.
Okay.
And then the last item is the liability insurance. I am estimating $315,000 for the year, and that is a 5% increase on the fiscal 15 actuals. So with all the information that I have available, I feel that that's the best estimate that I can have right now.
All right.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know what we forgot?
Did you say?
Do you want me to talk about that right now?
The pleasure of the chair,
What's on?
to talk about possibly getting rid of the paper
Paychecks?
checks and causing us, charging a small fee for replacements.
Well, that's,
We
you
can
can
do it
discuss
another-
it, but that's gonna be something that I think is gonna be part of the negotiations with especially with the unions.
Okay.
And I know last time we went through, we had a majority of them I believe, agreed to. I think it was either, it was that and then the
This is-
biweekly payroll, so.
She's just talking about new employees.
Oh, okay.
So what I would like to propose is that for all new hires,
Mhm.
to require direct deposit with electronic pay
Mhm.
stub delivery, not requiring of current. And currently, 2 of our unions do have in their contract that all of their
Right.
employees have to be direct
Okay.
deposit. So it would just be moving everyone else.
Mhm.
It would help to save a lot of
Right.
payroll costs,
Definitely.
and to get everyone moving more
Okay.
towards that.
Especially for the new ones.
Yeah, it sounds good. Now, Alicia will take that into consideration and see what we can do with it.
Excellent.
to
Thank you
help
very
along.
much.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Thank-
Happy
Happy
New Year,
New
Sarah.
Year.
All right, and last but not least, for the other 14 budgets is it's Nick.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody holding up?
We're doing well.
How are you old now?
Good, good.
All right. So which would you like to start with, Board of Selectmen?
Board of Selectmen.
Sure.
Okay.
So I would like to just make a sort of an overall statement.
Sure.
Looking at my budgets, what I'd like to do is to give the board some numbers and give you sort of clean sheets after this.
Oh.
My overall comment is going to be that on my budgets, I believe I stuck within the guidelines,
Looks
but
like
I shifted funds, in some cases dramatically.
Okay.
You might see one fund is down 50%, but another one's up 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And this is because the philosophy, well, it's always a philosophy of trying to budget to the bottom line
Mm-hmm.
and going, for example, last year with the 1% mandate and trying to, this is an attempt to really try and have a more true reflection and get those lines and those codes properly funded to get a better idea. I mean, I've always looked at the year-to-dates and all of that, but this is an attempt to get that more in line, give you a better picture. So that's why, if you have questions, why it's so big drop-off in one and a bigger one in another.
That's why,
That's
okay.
why. So, with the Board of Selectmen budget, just going with the salaries, you see that based on contractual increases, you have an increase there at this point of approximately 7%. And in big part is because of contractual increases with longevity and also with contracted employees with step increases and for non-union personnel. Next, down below, the operating expenses. If you look, I'd like to just go, what I'm proposing now for you is, you see a $4,500, that really, in taking further closer look at it, really should be a 41.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And that other 4, to make it simple, really should go down the bottom there, the other charges, expenses.
Okay, wait a minute, back up.
Yep, so 4,500, you take off the 4 to make it 41.
Okay, gotcha.
And then go down the bottom of the column there, and it really should be 4,
Okay.
400.
157.85.
Right, 5785, that's right. And this is, again, in part with my conversations
Okay.
with my appropriations liaison and Sarah, and taking a further look at it, so. I don't know if the board had questions in general about
Any
any of
questions
those
on it?
items. Okay. Looking on the supplemental request, I put in a request in the salary, if there is an outstanding question about a negotiation with a non-contracted employee, the board may be considering, that would be with the, I believe with the Benefits Administration Manager. I put in a figure there as a placeholder. And it's not based on any sort of number that I'm aware of that the board has talked about. It's a number that I picked out of thin air, frankly, and thought that might be in the ballpark in that kind of a conversation.
Okay, this is your wish list. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
this, I would say that, and I don't know how far it would go in for negotiations that are the purview of the Board of Selectmen, but this is specific for a non-union contracted employee that the board may wind up engaging in negotiations with. And this figure represents an estimate of where that number may lie.
Okay.
I don't know that. And again,
Okay, all right, okay.
so that's the figure there. And then down below, what I would point out are two things. First, under 5785, that 300, that's, scratch that. That was taken care of on the other one for the 400.
5785?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
I was wondering what that
Yep.
was.
And
So
then
where did that go exactly?
that is on the
What
front.
line did it go to?
5785 on the front, on the
Yeah.
operating,
Mm-hmm,
under the number for the 400.
That's part of the 400.
That's part of the,
That's
it
part
really
of the
should be.
400?
That, yes.
Okay. Now, what's the
Okay.
figure underneath it?
The other one I just wanted to point out was the 29,400. That was for an old warrant article for the municipal space study, but
Oh,
that
okay.
was put there as a placeholder. I had a conversation with the accountant. It's going to be taken off, but
Okay.
I had sent out paperwork. I didn't want to get things confusing with getting more papers
Okay.
going back and forth.
All right.
And the proposal does not ask for any new staff.
Okay, very good. Any questions from the board about the supplemental? All right, how about, what do you want to do next?
I have Health Department,
Okay, Board of Health?
519.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So, again, with the idea of trying to get a better reflection of the true costs, this is going to require, obviously, input from the board as to how you want me to present this. What we have here is, you can see, the budget, FY15 budget was $20,000 for personal services, well, appointed salaries and wages.
Mhm.
This is to cover for the health agent and the public health nurse. What I've done here is I've calculated out what the actual costs would be for the current wages of the health agent at $22 an hour for 19 hours a week.
Mhm.
You see there, it calculates out to 21.
Because that's the page that we were discussing that was missing from mine. That's okay, I can share, I'm
yeah,
good,
'cause-
please, we're good.
Do you have that with the 21,903?
I do, he has it.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm good, trust,
Okay.
it's okay.
Do you have that, Selectman Gorman?
Yeah.
Okay. So, it calculates out at 21,903. The public health nurse paid 85 at 52.4 weeks, 45, you can see the figure, 44.54, for a total actual of 26,358. Now, for the current fiscal year, if we keep going like we're going, I'm pretty confident that we will fall under the $20,000 that's allocated for this year. Because we don't have 19 hours of coverage every week. So I think that we'll be okay that way. But if the board were to hire, even just at the rate and the hours, we would need to make an allocation of $6,358 up top for next fiscal year. I've done that here by taking it from below at 5382, other purchase services, other, which is a line item that is used to pay for things like the mosquito spraying and also for the services with respect to monitoring of the gas wells and any other environmental issues that come up, which generally, on average, could be anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 a month. So I would recommend at least keeping that amount in that line item between the two. And then, so from there, it proposes an overall zero budget at this point. If the board wanted me to put in 2% here or there, I think it would be best done under that 5382.
Okay. Yeah, why don't we'll discuss that, yeah, we'll discuss that and bring it back for the 6th. and,
Get that.
All right.
Okay. Then on the next page, the supplemental, under the salaries, I take it a little bit further with giving the board an idea of what would it possibly look like to hire, since there's been discussion about a full-time health agent, what would that look like salary-wise? And I calculate something out that at $22 an hour, the total salary would be approximately $43,230. Okay. But then there, I also provide the board with a consideration of what the salary of the clerical person that is devoted to the Board of Selectmen and Board of Health. And you can see where that would be relative to the salary even at the full-time rate. If the board wanted to consider, and then just for a final calculation, I put in at a rate of $30 an hour, you'd be looking at somewhere around $58,950, so $59,000. You know, and then of course plus benefits, which I'll use the chief's numbers, anywhere from $5,000 to $11,000 approximately, depending on the plan. So those would be my questions to the board about the supplemental, and I know that the board is, you know, has ongoing talks about that position. The other thing I would point out down below is under 5710, the additional amount, well, if you go back on the first page to 5710, in-state travel mileage, 2,500. I recommend keeping that. However, if the board were also to consider a full-time and you were going to do either mileage or a stipend for mileage, I would put in a placeholder, and it says 13, it should be 23, to make it, you know, 400, up to $400 a month. So just for consideration.
All righty. Very good. Any questions from the board? All right. What would you like to do next?
The next one I have up is animal control. The dog officer.
Yes.
I don't know if Mr. O'Connor is
He's
here.
right there.
Yes.
I don't know if he's awake, but he's right there.
Oh, wanna
Did you want to-
come on up?
Oh, thank you, Don. You don't like the coughing in the camera, it takes away from the...
Oops.
Hey, Tom.
So Tom and I met pretty early on, talked about the budget, and with respect to the first page of the budget, there's going to be a couple of numbers that I'm going to point out that are changed, but I want to let you know is that the overall will still fall within the guidelines that have been given as far as what the appropriations was asking for, with one exception, and it's a 0.4% up on the top under 5193. The stipend should really be up there, and this is the stipend for Tom to go out and act in accordance with the barn inspections, animal inspections.
Yeah. That 5193 goes where?
5193, there
Yeah.
should be 1,500 there.
Okay.
There will be 1,500 there.
Yeah.
And that is coming out of the 5785.
13? Oh, 75, I'm sorry. All right.
5735.
So does that mean 5785 would be,
No, 5785 is going to be 364.
364?
Yep.
Okay, that doesn't add up then, but that's okay.
Well,
This is rough.
Right, it's really to ask the board if you're okay with the concept and get you the numbers, but to tell you that we're staying, within the 2%.
okay.
The 364 number will do that.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're staying.
And all of the other numbers, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine, go ahead.
All the other numbers, clothing, the training, gasoline, tires, those were all numbers that Tom and I talked about at some length, and we believe that they represent.
Yeah, this is the first time that we've had an opportunity to break it down by line item.
Right.
So it's the first go-around
Perfect.
to do that, so that it's not just the bottom line.
Right.
It's an
Exactly.
accurate accounting of where the money goes.
And that's usually where my questions are, is like, what is it? And so this helps a great deal. So every year, well. yeah.
Instead of having everything under 5785. But anyway.
Yes.
That's right.
So you're actually, if I'm hearing this correctly, you're actually decreasing the kennel costs.
Well, if you look and you go back to, FY13,
Mhm.
it was 211.
Right.
FY14, unfortunately, 1224, budgeted at 518 this year, so it's kind of it's really just a moving target. And
Mhm.
I think it also has, and Tom, please speak up on it, I think you are able at various times to get assistance from other groups, are you not?
I have open grants with a couple of organizations that help out with
Mhm.
regards to strays. When it comes to kennel costs, those are really kind of fixed costs, and there's no place to go to get funds to pay for that.
Mhm.
I have medical care cost, training cost, behavioral training cost associated with that, which will be picked up. But the kennel it's a moving target.
Okay.
The reason for that is we don't know how many strays we're gonna pick up.
Right.
We don't know how long they're gonna stay.
Right.
It's like having an uninvited guest,
Mhm.
They move in, you don't know when they're leaving.
Mhm.
So, under town bylaw, we keep them no longer than 10 days. Under state law, it's 7 days.
Okay.
So we have to, if we pick them up, we have to keep them 10 days, that's $200 a shot.
Okay. And then, so if
But
they're
if-
adopted out, then that charge goes to the adoptee, or no? Oh, okay.
No, we don't adopt out, we adopt to rescues, who, out of the goodness of their heart, take the animals to help
Mhm.
us find a good home for them. And they
Okay.
pick up a lot of the costs associated with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So then we go to the next page, if the board is ready.
Yeah, any other
to the next
further
page.
questions? Any questions?
Moving to the next page, supplemental page, we have here, you see I've included now up at the top under the appointed salaries and wages. And for those who might be watching at home, just to explain that Mr. O'Connor is our animal control officer who works 5 days a week, on call 24 hours a day, and is also joined by Melissa Legacy, who is our alternate animal control officer, and she works the other 2 days a week to spell Tom. And they are both professionally licensed at this point per the state law, state requirement. Actually, Tom got his certification before it was even a requirement. He just had the intuition, I guess.
I knew it was coming,
So the town has certainly in the last few years seen an increase in the professionalism and training for the animal control officers. As part of that, there's a request here, and it's been discussed by the board over several meetings over the last year or so, about increasing the stipend. And what I present to the board here is the plan that has been presented before to increase the stipend instead of $50 a day, which is the flat fee that each officer receives, regardless of the number of calls that they go on, regardless if it's a holiday or whatnot. They receive their $50 flat fee. The increase request here is for $25 per day increase to a $75 a day stipend. The calculation here would be $91.25. It also is a request for a $25 stipend differential for holiday coverage on 11 holidays, so that's the $275. So that supplemental request is $9,400 to cover those 2 increases.
Right, and as you said, we have discussed this numerous times, and we actually, I believe we were in favor of it. Appropriations was in favor of it. The only problem was appropriations didn't want to bring any salary/stipend increases to the town in the special town meeting, so we put it off till the regular town meeting. But I know that I believe everyone's, I'm still on board with this, so. That's all.
Yeah, well, that's my understanding too.
Yep.
I did have conversations with appropriations, and they would support it.
Yep.
If the board moves it forward.
Right.
I think another point that Tom reminded me of before we came up here was that this would be coming from additional funds generated by activity, if you will.
Yeah, this comes from available funds, so it's not a taxation issue. So
Right.
it doesn't come from taxation. It comes from available funds that were put into the general fund by efforts that I made a couple of years ago now. And have continued to maintain that level
Mhm. Okay.
at that. And I know I can bring in additional income,
Mhm.
and I think I've shown that to the board, and that's the reason why I'm asking for it.
Yeah.
Not only because of all the other activity that you see going on in town. I think Fire Chief, mentioned a number of things which are the same for the animal control. Town has grown, there's a lot of new challenges,
Mhm.
and it's become more than, an on-call job.
Mhm.
Mm.
True, true. All right.
So,
Very good.
That's the proposal for animal control. I don't know if the board has any.
No, I just as far as the math goes, you said it's a 39% increase. Isn't it more like 50%?
These formulas are put in cut.
Oh, okay.
It looks like there was a cut and paste that
Ah, okay. Because I was gonna say, that's not really 39%, that should be a little bit more. But the price would be the same, though. I'm sure the multiplication's correct.
The revision will make sure.
Great.
What's correct.
Then I will wait for the revision.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yep. Could we make a motion for a 1-minute recess?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Ready?
So basically, I was right.
All right, we're back.
It
The
doesn't
next
have
item is the legal budget, legal.
legal
Budget.
legal services.
So I present to the board a level-funded legal budget for the time being. You see that on certain years, it has gone over. I present right now 98,000. If the board wanted me to present at 2%, it would be 99,960. I haven't heard from either council or Labor Council about any impending increases. So I don't know if that's something that the board wants me to put that 2% in there.
What would that 2% be, Nick, you said?
The total bottom line in that case would be 99,960.
All right.
At least I hope so.
I think so.
So,
Rules.
yep. Whether or not the board thinks it is necessary to have me do that, just that.
I'm trying to think of what we have out there for
Well,
pending claims and things, if we
we get a couple, don't we?
yeah, maybe we should, at least,
Yeah, we had a couple problems.
that's true too, yeah, with labor negotiations. I assume that would be part of it, because once you get Sullivan Hayes involved, I believe the S in Sullivan is $1 tonight, so, anyways,
So
Sorry.
consider putting 2% then under
I'm gonna
the,
beat you later.
uh,
Well, not really for anybody.
under
that's-
the, perhaps the professional technical
yeah, I think
legal.
so, I think that's the one, yeah.
But weren't we supposed to be holding those, anything that was a salary?
It's not really a
Or
salary,
gross?
that's, the
Okay.
salary I think is up top.
That
Um,
represents a stipend
yeah.
for.
Down below is, I believe, anything Sullivan Hayes, anything we're billed hourly, because they're not on a
Yes.
retainer, they're
Right,
strictly
it's
hourly,
strictly
right?
hourly.
It'd be under 5304.
Yes. So that's something we can, obviously, we can discuss next meeting, but that's just a proposal to get it out there, and at least we're covered if we go over. If we don't, we're ahead of the game.
So you put the 2% on 5304
What
and
do you get for a figure for that,
5586?
Nick?
Just 5304, I believe.
Well, if it's just.
Why not 5586?
If it's on the total amount, it would be 99,960. If it's just on the 5304, that looks to be something like 1,400 or so.
Okay, yeah, it is, okay, so 3 times 2, so.
So
Yeah, we're
why,
not-
Why wouldn't you put it on 5586 too?
Well, that's my question,
Yeah.
is would you
I would
want to
think you
increase them, or
Would- Yeah, your 99,960 is 2% for everybody?
for the whole, right?
For the whole kit and caboodle, so
Now,
that
does
includes
that-
some of the wages.
But if we consider this, even though it's a stipend, if appropriations is asking us to keep everything, in theory, my thought process above the line that says total salaries, keep that the same, then we would only go with 5304 and 5386 for the 2% increase.
You could do it, yeah, any number
Yeah,
of
I
those
think
ways.
that's the best thing to do, because we don't want to mess around with the top figure, because that's salaries.
So that would be 66,300 instead of
I said- I think I said that.
65,000.
Okay.
So the board
All
would
right.
want me to submit a new paper with, a new budget with the 2% on the
Sure.
65 total?
Yes. All right. All right. We got next.
The next I have is Veteran Services.
Okay.
Department 543, Veteran Services. I made contact with Mr. Comerford. He's the director for the Eastern Hampton County Veteran Services District. He told me that a preliminary number for the town would be 30,137. That would be the assessment, and that covers basically the costs for Mr. Comerford and for some office-related postage, mailings, and those
Oh,
types
okay.
of things.
They should be contacting us soon for a meeting.
And I believe that that's the case. I was a little surprised it didn't have one in December, but I guess it didn't work out.
Is that why you took the 500 out of postage? Because that 30,137 included things like postage?
No, no, excuse me, yes, pardon me, yes, that,
Okay.
yes.
Cool.
And, with regards to the veterans' benefits, if the board wanted me to move that up to, 2%, I could do that, but it's difficult to say what that amount will be. If the
Mhm.
program is successful, the number's gonna go up, which is good because the veterans are getting the services that they need and deserve. But it's a little
Right.
difficult to predict. The good news there is, of course, we still continue to receive reimbursements. It takes a little time, but we do get up to 75% reimbursement on those payments, so.
Yeah, and if you look at fiscal year 13 and 14, the big disparity, there's a $14,000 difference, down in 14 from 13, so but you never know,
But, right,
so, okay.
you don't. So I think at this point, I would just recommend putting in the budget as is.
Yeah.
Use the 32 number, just for a little bit of, $1,000 cushion, if you will,
Mhm.
because they still haven't voted on that budget. I expect they'll do that at that meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is for review, so we can have questions. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
The next one I had was emergency preparedness. And if it pleases the board, I'd like to ask Mr. Gentile to come up.
Sure.
How are you? Good.
So glad to be joined by Mr. Anthony Gentile, the Emergency Management Director. He and I met earlier in December, talked a little bit about the budget. I think what we have to present is somewhat straightforward, but I will go right through it here. Really, in the column there, what should be mirrored in the FY16 budget column is what's in the FY15 budget column. So that's what will be improved and given to the board. Proposing $2,000 stipend, which is the same currently. And then all of the other line items, in speaking with Anthony, would still be proposed to remain the same, not even looking at the 2%.
Okay.
Then on the next
So-
page, yep.
Any questions from the board on that?
Nope.
Okay. Second floor?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for the offer, but I'll take it at a later time.
All right.
And then the next page, there is a supplemental request in there under stipends to consider an increase of $1,000 for the emergency management director, to bring it to $3,000. And Anthony had done a little bit of research about some surrounding communities and what the emergency management directors are paid, and I believe he has something.
Yeah, I
that
printed
can-
something out here. Just a little.
Thank you.
I didn't realize Agawam had 28,000 people that lived in their town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They're a city, aren't they?
West Springfield's a city. I didn't know that either.
Mhm.
Agawam's a town. So,
Yeah, I didn't realize Agawam had more people in West Springfield.
Yeah. And I put there what the emergency management directors make for a stipend, and of course the population on the right hand side.
Mhm.
So.
Okay. Very good.
So information for the board to consider. I don't know if there's any questions.
I don't have any right now. I don't know if any of the board members do.
At this time.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you send me that one too?
This?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
All right, what's next?
And I
Hey,
believe
Tom?
last,
Oh, I thought he was leaving.
I'm all set, right?
you
Yeah.
are,
Oh,
thank
okay.
you, sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll come over. I'm not that tall.
Unless you want to do it next one with us.
Sarah's hinting to me that we're gonna talk trash next. I just love saying that.
Let's see. Well, I actually had, yeah, if you want to talk trash, I don't have the paper right in front of me, but I can tell you what I've done with that number. Yep. Oh,
I say, what should you, oh, we got it.
Thank you. So with the trash collection,
Mm-hmm.
as the board's aware that this is the contract year, and so you're well aware of what's going on with all of that. The only thing I really did here was I put it all in, put the numbers on, it's non-salary expense. This goes to pay for the services provided by Republic Services, which is our residential and our municipal curbside collection. They bring the trash down to Covanta, located on Bondi's Island. So the hauling portion of it gets paid out of this, and then the tip fee to dump the refuse at Covanta, that's the other part of it, and we pay a per ton fee. Recall that the board did very well last year in negotiating with several other communities to reduce the cost of our tip fees, and it was a significant reduction in those costs. So we're doing pretty well with that. However, we don't know what a new contract will bring. We don't know what those costs will be for the hauling. Also, the board is considering, yes.
To the board. When are we supposed to get that, Nick? I thought we were supposed to get that.
We don't have anything yet. I think things have been delayed because of the holidays.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so I had, last communication was, with Republic was, Mr. Stannis was saying we'll catch up after the holiday about that.
Yeah.
And you met with Arlene Miller on the 16th. So I'm thinking probably beginning next week, things will start coming back.
Yeah.
And we should, I would expect that a question to the board about whether or not you want to consider whatever proposal Republic would submit, and I'm hopeful that they'll do so prior to your meeting of January 20th or at some point, for you to consider, so that a decision can be made by, let's call it February 3rd, as to whether or not you want to go out to bid. And I think that we would still have time to do that, given the team is probably still intact that did it last time between here and Long Meadow. So we'd have a leg up, I think.
Okay.
But that's where the funding comes right out for this. All I've done here is combine the numbers, and if the board wanted to consider, any kind of a 2% increase, I could
That's probably a good idea. I know you actually did that.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Just to be on the safe side.
right.
Okay.
What you did here, you combined the tip fee?
No, what I did was, I just put it into one line item, other service waste disposal.
Yep.
We,
So that's
you know,
everything.
just, yeah, in this case, it was actually a reversal of what I've been doing on the other budgets.
Yeah.
Because you can always run the reports on the vendors, and it's services. So we don't have, we don't have collection and then tip fees as codes. And
Okay.
Well, should we?
I didn't think so. I thought other service waste disposal covered it,
Mhm.
but I guess I would defer the question to
She's nodding. You're good.
I concur.
She
what,
concurs.
to keep them under
Yeah,
one?
to keep it the
Oh,
way
okay,
you said
all
it,
right.
yeah, she's
So-
nodding. I did a conference just that quick with a look.
Very good. So that's why you see it that way.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Mine must be in that pile there. Thanks, Sarah.
All right. What do we got left?
One more.
Celebrations. And proposing no increases in the budgets here. Talking about utilities up at Little Red Schoolhouse and various, Memorial Day, Veterans Day charges, and looking to keep everything the same.
Okay. Very good.
And if I could, I would like to ask the board a question about a different budget proposal. I didn't do a lot of extensive work on it because I'm trying to get a sense of the board as to whether or not and how much work you want done on this. But the matter of whether or not and how to pursue a human resources function for the town is one that I'd like to ask the board for some input on. And, I think that there's been a lot of talk through the years on it. We've tried some things, consulting. I have I have a budget here, but it's numbers down on paper based on salaries that maybe I've seen along the way. It's not scientific. My question to the board is, do you think that it's worthwhile for me to pursue this and bring you back some actual hard numbers? And before I get an answer to that, I can tell you that at least from the perspective of several of your department heads, if not all of them, and department heads under the authority of other boards, and from people that I've spoken with on the Appropriations Committee informally, and maybe for themselves, and I don't want to say it's the entire committee.
Okay.
But from many different quarters, I think there is a sense that some sort of human resources function needs to be implemented for the town of East Long Meadow. And I think I'm a very strong advocate for it, and I know that I'm not alone with that. So, and I think that the board has had some favorable view of that, but I really need to know if you want this to be pursued, even if it were to go to town meeting and fail, at least to bring this up, because I don't see the need going away.
I mean, as you said, we pursued this a number of years ago, and the town wasn't in favor of it at that time. I look at that dollar figure for outside legal services, not our town council, but the other council, and I see that, and I may be wrong, feel free to correct me, but I think a part of that could be alleviated by having an HR person who can handle many items that we now have to bring in a counsel, legal counsel for. It's not going to take the whole bill up, but if it took 15%, 20%, then that's a nice step in the right direction. So I think it's a good idea. I mean, I'll ask the board. I'd be in favor of you getting some real figures on it. At least we can see what it looks like and take it from there. And if I know department heads have looked for some sort of HR person that to help them with situations that it could be a minor situation. If they nip them in the bud with an HR person, it saves it turning into a snowballing into something major and ending up with a legal issue. So in my personal opinion, I think it's a good idea to at least get the information down. I'll defer to the board for their comments.
I would say that there's definitely a need. Whether we can afford the need is another question. It doesn't hurt to look at the numbers. However, we can look at it. I mean, fly it up the flagpole and see who salutes. I definitely think an HR person would be used, but it's just that question of can we afford it?
No, my opinion is we definitely need one, because in the little time I've been here, I can see a definite need for having a resource department here, because it's causing a lot of problems in other departments also. But I think we're in need of human resources as much as a health agent. And I think instead of doing some of the things we're gonna do for capital projects, I would rather see us get a person in here rather than put something else off, because we definitely need one.
That's an idea.
And also, and I know Sarah could attest to this, how many $55 million companies do you know that do not have an HR person?
I know, she did say that. She said that to you too?
No, I've heard that before. We were talking about that
okay.
long before she got here, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, with that consensus from the board, I'll go ahead, get you some better numbers, and endeavor to get this, to you in time for the 6th. I may still only have a draft type of number for you, though.
We've got an idea, at least it'll help us,
If it's the pleasure of the board, could we also have like a breakdown and possibly what a half, baby steps again, maybe what a part-time person would look like versus a full-time? Understanding that the need is for a full-time, but if we can kind of lighten the blow, so to say.
Well, I'm glad, of course, I'll look at that. The other thing with that is, in speaking with Sarah about this too, and we were discussing the possibility of looking at if there's an outsourcing opportunity to do that. So I'd like to maybe come up with, Plan A and Plan B, and
That's a good idea.
And see if there's any savings or any efficiencies there that we can gain.
We did have, a number of years ago, we had an HR consultant. She was in here for a year, 2 years? 2 years. She had a 2-year contract, and she was used a lot, so, but when it came time to make it a permanent position, the town wasn't in favor of it, so.
You and I talked about not necessarily consultant, but a purchase service.
Okay, yeah.
Fee for service, yeah.
Okay.
Right, so it's companies that do this, and what there are benefits, there are pros and cons to both scenarios, and Nick and I would like to look at how much would these cost and that to give a better idea.
Okay.
When you present, if you could give those pros and cons, that would be great too.
And I don't know how many towns in the area have HR consultants. But we can, also, you don't have to look into it, but we can think about it in the opposite ways. If we hired a full-time consultant, could we farm them out to other area communities and sort of a,
So you talk about regionalization.
Or, well,
Is it
just
a regional person?
selling our services to the
Selling
other
our
towns.
services,
Doing the same
okay.
thing we'd be doing with a purchase service, only we're the seller, not the purchaser.
Did they have one where you come from, Sarah?
Did they have what?
Human resource person?
Yes, we had a robust human resource department.
Not a
This
person,
is
a
very
department.
different from what I've seen
Yeah.
in
I would also,
private industry.
I would also say to the board, when you're talking about the regionalization effort, you might be interested to note that Ludlow went ahead and hired
Did they?
a full-time
They did?
HR, yeah.
Is it possible that we can farm from theirs?
I think that we would have done that had, we
Well-
looked at that with them, and I think that,
Yeah.
Well, I remember
But wasn't
Great.
it quite pricey?
No, it was no, when we looked at it with them, we looked at it through Pioneer Valley Planning, And Pioneer Valley Planning, instead of coming back and saying, yes, you should share an HR person, said, no, they could use our HR person part of the time. And then that sort of defeated the purpose. And it was just, we couldn't figure that out because she was only working 50 hours at a week at the time then.
So how is she gonna have time for us?
Yeah.
But
So,
keep in mind that the need for the size that we are is most likely a full-time job. It's not going to be someone that you can split, not one person that you can
Right.
split to say 3 communities.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not what we believe the need to be.
Okay. And if I may ask one more question before we drop this subject. Purchase services, just out of curiosity. I assume a purchase service HR person would be at a lower rate than our purchase service attorney.
I would make the same assumption,
Okay.
however, I have not done the research
Okay.
to support that
Okay.
assumption.
All right,
Fair enough.
thanks. All right, are we all set?
I think so, those are the
Wonderful.
ones that I had.
All right, great. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you, Sarah, thank you, Nick.
Through the chair, I
Yes.
would ask for clarification on what the process is for upgrading
Upgrading,
a position.
Hey, Sarah, have a nice
When do we
night.
get notified, any kind of position? If you could just show me where it is at some point, that would be great.
okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I maybe address that
Sure.
question? I'm sorry,
Sure.
I heard you asking about the process for a regrade.
Yes,
With the town employees union, it's spelled out within that contract.
right, but this is a non-union position that I'm referring to.
Non-union position would be, there is no set formula for that,
Mm-hmm.
at least none that I've seen the board use. However, the board has asked for materials such as market analysis. That would be similar to what the process would be under the union contract. It's really been at the discretion of the board.
Okay. Perhaps, since you've been here the longest, past practices, if you could inform us of that.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next item on the agenda, thank you. On the agenda is approval of minutes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes, open session minutes of July 22nd, 2014, and September 2nd, 2014.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none,
Oh.
are these the ones, did you have the,
There was, yeah, I did, but there was one little thing on the 29th.
we don't have a 29th,
Excuse me. It is the
22nd?
Excuse me, hold on. On the December meeting, the November meeting that we received the minutes on, there was one little adjustment. Oh, it was the last line in executive session, if it could be struck, and
No.
I'll give it
All right, well, which one are you talking about? Because we're only doing July and September now.
September 2nd.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's the executive,
All right.
the topic for,
Yeah, once you get it,
exec-
we'll give it to Lorraine and then. you
and,
can-
but that's the only change,
Okay.
just that one
right.
strike.
All right, then in that case, why don't we vote on the open session minutes first?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'd like to make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of July 22nd, 2014, and September 2nd of 2014 with the change on the last line.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, under old business, budget matters. Now, I don't know why I thought we were doing these on the 6th, but anyways, we've got the capital plan priority list, which,
We are doing it on the 6th, I think that was for discussion.
okay. All right, I figure this is mostly the budget, so I don't even have, well, it shows they're here. I don't even have the priority list, so.
Mr. Chairman, this
Yes.
Selectmen board, board discussion, if the board is ready to make votes and choices, that's fine, but this is really just to remind the board that this is an outstanding piece of business that
Right.
we're hoping to, the capital planning committee
Mhm.
and also the appropriations committee
Right.
would like to know what the board's decisions about them are.
Okay.
The capital planning list is your four items that
Mhm.
the board's approved to endorse. Then the question of whether or not the board wants to consider promoting a local options meals tax.
Mhm.
Doing anything to either rescind or curtail elected officials' healthcare, and then any changes or discussion of changes for employee health care. It's really, if the board wanted to make a decision this evening, but it's not absolutely necessary.
Okay. All right, I'll defer to the board, because I know I knew we had a heavy evening with those, so I was prepared
Right.
for these for the 6th, so.
Right.
And actually, as far, well, let's go, employee health care, we've already sent out the notice.
Right.
That, I just want to
Yeah.
let the board know, yes. That
Okay.
letter's sent out, and the board will have on its agenda a consideration to reaffirm its vote to adopt the section of pertinent law for allowing for the process of health
Okay.
care changes.
All right.
For
And
the
then-
employee.
Yeah, for the employees, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can discuss what changes we'll propose. And then as far as A, B, and C, next week, I'll be prepared to talk about them Tuesday, if that's okay for the rest of the board, if I can speak
Yeah.
English.
I'll be for the 6th.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to touch on what Selectman Gorman had said with regards to the capital plan priority list, and with the mention of the HR person. If we are going to go with an HR person, is that going to change the priority list as we look at it? And is that something we want to look at once we have the hard numbers?
Well, obviously, an HR person is not a capital item, so the only things that you
Oh,
do
I'm
for
sorry.
capital,
I was talking about
I realize the
appropriations, I'm
intent of it, I realize you talk about spending money, but the capital items are the ones that are financed over X number of years, like
Right.
equipment or buildings or
Right.
improvements, so.
My bad. That was my error.
I'm all in favor of the HR. I wish we could finance it over a number of
Well-
years, it'd be easier, you know?
Can that be considered a capital project? It goes over years. No, I tried.
$20,000 and have a minimum of 3 year life.
Okay.
Well, that's our employees. They're all a
We
minimum,
hope
they're
that
all a
they have a
minimum of
minimum of 3
$20,000 and a
years.
3-year life, so.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, minimum, oh. Well, we
geez.
hope that they're gonna be a minimum of 3 years.
All
and-
right. I know.
Okay.
And then the other 2 items we can also discuss.
Yeah, okay, that's
you know,
fine.
I definitely want to hear both of your opinions on those. so.
Okay, great.
All right, next item, the Casino Mitigation Committee. I believe we had discussed this, and we were talking about putting together a committee that included department heads,
Mhm.
pertinent department. And as we were sitting here, as the department heads were rolling through, I was thinking, that person should be on it, that person should be on it, like
Mhm.
police, fire,
Mhm.
IT. When we want to get, we can discuss who we want to put on it, but I'm thinking DBW,
Mm-hmm.
Nick. No, not Nick to talk, Nick on the committee.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is also, yes, it's dual purpose. It's for the committee that the board was discussing, but it's also for the board to keep in mind, and that I believe a decision needs to be made relatively soon, first week or two of January, about who the board might want to appoint to a regional committee, which is what's called for under the gaming law.
Okay.
So it'll be of the communities that are involved as surrounding and host and so forth.
Mm.
It's like a casino oversight committee, I forget the exact.
And that will be somebody from town?
No, from us.
From
the
us,
board,
okay.
Well, I
yeah.
think it's up to the discretion of the board who
All right.
would want to appoint, whether it's a member of the board itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we can do that too. The next item, what's the boards and commissions?
This is a listing of the vacancies currently available.
I'd be more than happy to read that out, please.
Sure, could you?
Read it into record. The vacancies that we currently have on our boards and commissions, we have one opening, for the Conservation Commission. We have one alternate opening on the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have 2 openings on the Council of Aging board. And then for the Register of Voters, we have 1 Democratic opening, which will, I'm sure, a recommendation will be coming shortly. For the Community Emergency Response Team, known as CERT, we're always looking for new members. And then for the East Long Meadow ADA Commission, there are 3 openings. So anybody who'd like to get involved, send a letter to Nick Bro in the Selectmen's office, and we'll make sure we get you to work and helping our town continue to be the best that it is.
All right,
It
great.
must be 9 o'clock.
Yes. All right, thank you. At the
happens.
sound of the tone, I feel like Paul Harvey. Anyways, next item is the department head vacation request.
Oh,
Is that,
executive. I would think that would be executive because that's negotiations.
okay. I'm not sure, okay. I don't know if it's
I'm not sure
negotiations,
either.
but yeah,
I'm just
okay, yeah,
asking.
well, that's probably, it probably is. Next item. We have a request from St. Michael's Knights of Columbus, one-day liquor license, Tuesday, January 6th, from 5 to 7:30 p.m. at the St. Michael's Community Center in conjunction with the East Long Meadow Scholarship Fund. Insurance is on file. Make a motion to approve the request from St. Michael's Knights of Columbus for the one-day liquor license, Tuesday, January 6th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Next, if you don't mind reading the meetings, invitations, and reminders?
Okay, sure, certainly. Town offices and library closing. Okay, did we need to discuss that? They're closing too? Okay. Okay. According to this notice here, town offices and library closing at noon on Wednesday, December 31st, and closed Thursday, January 1st, 2015, and on Friday, January 2nd, 2015, in observance of the new year. Board of Selectmen meeting on Tuesday, January 6th, 2015, at 6 p.m. at the Council of Aging in the Media Room, located at 328 North Main Street. MMA annual meeting and trade show on Friday, January 23rd, and Saturday, January 24th, at the Heinz Convention Center in Boston.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to move to executive session to discuss matters of strategy with respect to union negotiations and matters relating to non-union personnel.
So-
To return to
There you
open,
go.
only to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Selectman Gorman?
Yes.
Selectman Thorpe?
Yes.
Selectman Federici, yes.